And we are live. I am joined once again by my good buddy Arjun Sinha, who has been following a couple stories that have been that's going on in India. Right now, India is going through some elections at the moment, and there seems to be some funny business that is going down. So, Arjun, welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you back on.
It's great to be here, man. It's always great to be here.
So why don't you start off? We'll give us a breakdown of everything that's going on in your country right now, because as I've been reading through these articles that you sent me on the Discord server, it was looking very suspicious into all the activity into your election. Like somebody's trying to rig something.
Oh God. It's like the West Side Story, bro. Like people are trying to cut each other, but yet somehow it's still a musical. So okay. So where do we start? Let us start from the main election that is happening in our country, which is right now the southern state of Karnataka. The Karnataka election is everybody's eyes are on it in India. Now, Karnataka is a special election because it is one of the last states the Congress party has, the Indian National Congress has. They're like the grand old party of India, and it's one of the last states they have. It's their last bastion. And the BJP, the party from where our Prime Minister has risen from, he has gone all out in this election because it was an election promise, to say that he would rid the country of the Congress, and he's on the verge of it. He has taken, in the last 5 elections, he has taken, I think, 5 or 6 states from the Congress. In the last 5 elections, in the last 5 state elections.
So, now, is the Congress a left-wing party or a right-wing party?
It's a socialist party. It's a socialist party. In our country, the left wing is like on the verge of death now. It's like it's gone beyond the last nail in the coffin. It's like it's now the corpse is rotting. Basically, it's gone into that phase. So and not only that, to make all this happen, he went all out in the rallies. In fact, one of the funniest lines which damaged the Congress really during his rallies was I'm translating here. He says the Congress party lies all the time. Okay, everybody in the Congress lies. They tell new lies every day. They tell lies every day. They tell lies very loudly. So it's a translation, but he just kept repeating that the Congress lies all the time and they're corrupt. And the buzz is that Modi will win this election. But the fact is, even if it's a hung assembly, even then the BJP wins, because in the last few elections, what has happened is when BJP has been short of minority, and even Congress has been short of majority, and even the Congress has been short of majority. What happened was BJP made deals with the other parties, formed alliances, and formed the government from and took the government from right under their noses. There was this election in where was it? Manipur. The Manipur election, BJP had, out of the 60 seats, you needed a 31 seat majority in the assembly. So BJP had 21, Congress had 28. And BJP formed an alliance with the local party and they formed the government with 21 seats. Worse than that was just a few months back when the Northeast elections happened and Meghalaya was up for grabs. The BJP had only 2 seats in that election. Congress had many more, I think 15, 20 seats in that election. BJP formed the government with 2 seats.
2?
With just 2 seats, by just forming alliances with the other local parties and formed the majority. So BJP has been taking governments from the Congress right, left, and center.
It's impressive that they managed to do that with just 2 seats. Like, that's actually pretty impressive. I understand they're making a coalition and everything, but damn, like, you got to be a pretty good salesman in order to do that.
No, the thing about a BJP coalition is, like, the BJP is in charge. Whether BJP is in a coalition or BJP is not in a coalition, BJP is in charge. There are no coalition compulsions. So the regional parties understand this, because BJP is a very strict and disciplined party, and they don't allow any monkey business. because and that was found out by the current Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu. If you follow this story, it's hilarious. Chandrababu Naidu is a weird character, right? He was brought into the current party he is in. It's called the TDP in Andhra Pradesh. It's the ruling party, and it was in alliance with the BJP. When he joined the party, it was his father-in-law's party, right? It was his father-in-law's party. He was brought into the party, and then he eventually ousted his own father-in-law. He's that kind of a character. So
that's like some sort of Shakespearean play or something about hearing them stabbing their father in the back or father-in-law in the back. Jesus.
Oh God. So he's a funny character, and he's known for his blackmailing tactics. So what happened was he suddenly decided that he wanted special category status for his state, for trade and whatever considerations and lower taxes, so that he can make it an election issue. So the BJP said, we will not give you special category status. Then he started blackmailing the BJP, publicly saying, we will leave the alliance, this will happen, that will happen, we will form a third front, this, that. BJP said, no, we will not give you special category status. So then he said, okay, fine, I'm leaving the alliance. He had a couple of union ministers in the cabinet. BJP had given him some union ministers and this and that. So he left the alliance and BJP didn't care. And now he's like again on the margins. Again, he's on the margins of politics. And he tried to stitch up a coalition of 11 parties nationwide to form a third front. It has still not gone anywhere. And it is. And so, see, this is the thing about the BJP, that they don't give in to blackmail, and they use every trick in the book to dismiss anybody they don't. Means every trick in the book. I mean every legal trick in the book. They don't do illegal stuff. Like at least I have not seen so far. Like for example, in this election, in the Karnataka election, bunch of things have been happening. Electoral fraud on a scale that is so far been unheard of. So the BJP, what they have done is they have just got the income tax department and the other law enforcement agencies to raid a bunch of ministers. Okay, because that shows, and this was one day before the election, one day before the polling was supposed to happen, they raided a bunch of ministers. So just defaming the Congress, and it was found, and 10,000 plus voter ID cards were found there. 10,000 voter ID cards. The identification you need to give to drop the vote. So, and not to mention, they were giving out money about equivalent of, I think, what, 200 Canadian dollars per person to voters. They were handing out money about $200 per person. They were handing out, I think, laptops were being handed out. I'm not sure about that, but cash in kind. Let's just put it cash in kind. Food was being handed out. Food, like rations and all, were being handed out, like to buy votes. This has been a trend in the South for some time. Like since the BJP has started winning, they have just become desperate. Means like in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh, where the BJP won last year with 3/4 majority, right? 80% of the seats they won in that legislative assembly election. They were handing out laptops, bicycles. They were handing out scholarships to students. They were handing out money, rations. I mean, short of gold jewelry, they were handing out everything.
Just doing anything to buy votes, it seems like, which seems to be very typical of a left-wing party. Whenever they go to election and they're falling behind, well, suddenly here come the free handouts.
Yeah, dude, but in your case, it's in the terms of policy, right? Here, they're actually giving out free stuff.
Like, that's got to be violation of some bribery charges at the very least.
It is. Bribery? It is in violation of election commission laws. your party can get disqualified. Your candidates can get disqualified from elections. It's a criminal offense. But what these guys do is they go and they intimidate the state election officer and they say, you talk, bad things will happen to your family. That kind of thing.
They send thugs and all that.
Yeah. Then what do you think is happening in the Bengal elections? How did they get Mamata Banerjee, the Chief Minister of Bengal, got 1/3, 34% of the candidates to drop out, her opposing candidates to drop out just because she was threatening them.
Wow, and I thought that our politics over here was cutthroat there. It's almost deadly.
Dude, we thought we were out of this kind of thing, but the opposition is now desperate. It is great. It's deeply troubling to see all this because this has. We used to understand that this used to go on in the 70s and 80s. Like this was that was the norm in the 70s and 80s because at that time people were poor, people were. But the fact is, even after handing out so much stuff, they didn't win. That's the thing. The voters didn't get swayed. So, but Mamata Banerjee has been using communism, the Communist Party tactics to sort of create a sort of situation in Bengal where uh, she's just sort of is trying to steamroller the opposition because BJP is now has become the second largest party in Bengal, which she did where BJP had no presence 2 years back.
Ah, so they're starting to get into her territory then, eh?
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
I see where the danger is. And you were just saying at the beginning that this is one of their last stands right now. This is like their last area that they actually hold. So I could definitely understand why they'd be going to such extreme tactics. Not that it's acceptable, but it makes a lot more sense where they're coming from. Like what they're doing, I should say, not where they're coming from.
So for example, in Karnataka, they have been the current chief minister Siddaramaiah. He started to he started Carnatic nationalism, right? State anthem of Karnataka, state language Kannada. He started to divide the community by saying we will give certain Hindu communities religion and minority status. We will give so. He was trying to divide the society like that and try and make a sort of a popular issue out of like the Kannada identity, which is the BJP's platform. BJP says Hindu nationalism, Hindu because that's their platform. Like we are Hindus, Hindu way of life, and we are nationalists. As I said, the 3-point agenda.
That's the way Modi has been able to destroy the left in your country is through that 3-point agenda you were mentioning, but many times.
Yeah. And when Siddaramaiah saw that the Kannada identity thing is not working and Modi's 3-point agenda is catching on like wildfire along with his economic agenda, he just resorted to bribery. And then he got caught for bribery. Recently, Siddaramaiah was a huge thing was done, a news piece was done on him saying the watches of Siddaramaiah. He wears watches worth how much? Let me just give you the calculation. It's 50 rupees to a Canadian dollar, right? 50 rupees to a Canadian dollar means 500,000 would be $10,000. Okay, 5 million would be $100,000, and 5 crores would be which is 50 million. 50 million would be about $1 million. Okay, Siddaramaiah was recently pictured wearing a watch worth more than $1 million.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Damn, they're doing well for herself wearing a watch over $1 million. I wish I could afford that.
Yeah, he has many such watches. It's not that he has one such watch; he has many such watches.
Oh Jesus!
This is on a different scale, bro. This is on a different scale, right? So he wears this watch, and he gets questioned about. He says, "No, this was a gift," which is worse. Which is worse. This is not better.
I would say that actually, if it is a gift, that is much worse because then you literally have outside influence trying to buy him off. At least if he was buying it himself, it may see some corruption where they're trying to say it's trying to harvest some money for themselves. But yeah, I agree. If it's a gift, that's way worse. He definitely shot himself in the foot by saying that.
Yeah, and he has not been saying it's a gift for the last few days. He has been saying it for the last few years, and he used to in fact be proud of his watches. He used to show it off to people. No, oh look, I've got a watch worth some $1+ million. Oh, I've got a watch worth $500,000.
Wow.
And Modi gave him two beautiful names. Siddharamaiah. Okay, Siddharamaiah means Siddha means the one who is enlightened, right? Ramaiah is the name of Ram, so the enlightened Ram. That's the translation of his name. So Siddharamaiah, Modi, because of his corrupt, because he's corrupt, named him Siddharupaiah. Siddharupaiah means he's enlightened about money. He's enlightened about money, and that just destroyed him. He started calling Modi names and all that, but it just backfired on him. And he gave him another name called Nidaramaya, means sleeping Ram, because he looks very sleepy. So he called it the sleeping Ram. so these two names just politically, in the rallies, people were just chanting against this guy.
So now I'm trying to think, did he take a page out of Trump's book, or did Trump take a page out of his book? Because this sounds very similar to when Trump was campaigning and he was saying things like Crooked Hillary, which were names that stuck and ended up sinking a lot of her support. And this sounds like almost exactly what Modi has done right now.
No, Modi has been doing it since his chief ministerial days. He used to always name call his opponents, and he used to give them names like before Trump got elected. There were elections where he was calling his opponents names. So but Trump talks has long chats with Modi very frequently. He has long phone conversations with Modi. I think this is what I think. This is my personal opinion. Maybe Modi is giving him some pointers. Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised, actually, because I gotta say that I don't think I've ever heard Trump trash India or say anything bad about Modi, and he's trashed about just about everybody else that he can. I mean, with good reasons. There's plenty of times where people are giving Trump crap for certain things that he says, but he has a lot of merit in a lot of things that he talks about. Whether it has to be about France or the UK, or hell, if even sometimes when he's talking about Justin Trudeau in Canada. So
yeah, so see what the thing is. The thing about Modi is that Modi might be the only world leader he respects. Might be. I'm not sure. You never know with Trump, but he might, because Modi. What happened was Modi outsmarted Trump very and made him look very silly. More on two issues: on the protectionism issue and the climate accord issue. India is very strongly for the climate accord, and because we are trying to change our environmental standards and all that. Like we are trying to bring in a cleaner environment and all that, because pollutions are at record levels right now.
You're talking about the Paris Climate Agreement, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, because it hits American companies harder because of the emissions and all the standards, and new standards they've brought in. But for India, it is beneficial for us to stick to the climate accord, and we were one of the ones who designed the climate accord. And we made a lot of countries sort of come to the table and sign the agreement. That's also there. So we are very heavily invested in it. And the protectionism issue, what happened was, there's a very funny story about that, where the Harley Davidson CEO called Trump and said that in India they're charging our motorcycles 50% over the sales price as tax. 50% of the motorcycle's value. Sorry, not 50%. 100% of the motorcycle's value is being charged as luxury tax. So we are unable to compete. So please do something about it. So Modi got a call from Trump, and Trump told Modi that this is not fair. These are not fair trade practices. You must lower the taxes. You should just lower the taxes. Modi just said, "Oh, of course. Just because you are saying it, I will lower it," and he lowered it to 75%. So Trump was very happy. Trump went back to Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson CEO said, "Dude, it's still 75%. So they're still taxing us out of competition." So Trump again huffed and puffed, and he called Modi back and said, "What is this 75%?" Modi said, "Okay, I understand. Just because you are saying it, I'll lower it again." And he lowered it to 50%. This time Trump went back and he did a press conference after this. You can check it up on YouTube. It's there. He says, "Modi is a beautiful man with beautiful words." So basically, he understood that because Modi is a Gujarati, and Gujaratis there is a stereotype about them that very good with business. They're very good with business. So Modi just outsmarted, and Modi is a typical Gujarati, and he's much more hardcore. He's much more hardcore when it comes to business than probably even Trump is. And Trump realizes this, so that's why he doesn't trash Modi. And moreover, there is another aspect to it that Trump is a very big ally on the counter-terror front. He's like one of the biggest allies Trump has right now in fighting terror, at least, and countering China. So Trump doesn't trash Modi.
Well, that's what we need right now. We do need strength in the counter-terrorist department with everything that's been going on in the world right now. And I like to see that there are countries that are standing up, because right now, right now, my government isn't standing up to them. Right now, we're actually becoming a terrorist haven in my country because Justin Trudeau wants to welcome them back, and he thinks that some sort of rehabilitation program with coloring books and wagging fingers is actually going to change these people's minds. And I've said in the past before, it's that in the minds of these terrorists who believe that their ideology is very strong, this sort of idea of rehabilitation is not going to do anything for them. All they're going to do, I'm sure, is go, yeah, okay, yeah, we've changed our minds. And then as soon as they're out of there, it's back to what they were doing to begin with.
Where they get all that money, and where do you think they're investing it?
What's that?
Where do you think they're investing all the money they get from the Canadian government? All these so-called rehabilitated terrorists, where are they sending that money?
Right back home right back to their terrorist buddies, or that's staying inside the country to fund their terrorist buddies. Either way, recruit even better. Yeah, there you go. Recruiting is also a big one right now.
Yeah. So see, that's the thing. See, I'll do you one better. The current Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, apparently, allegedly, and by allegedly I mean quite certainly. Okay, let's not give it 100%. Let's not give it 100%. Let's keep it at allegedly. The fact is, she was apparently caught fostering terror cells on the border between Bengal and Bangladesh.
Oh, really?
That's allegation on that. Allegation on that. The thing, what happened was, and the National Investigative Agency at the beginning of this term, in I think 2016 or 15, they raided Bengal. They raided these border cells. They found 180 plus 3-man terror cells operating on the Bengal border.
Holy crap. That's kind of scary. They're just like, they're really right there ready to attack at any given moment.
No, but they were not, it gets better because they were not aimed at India. They were aimed at Bangladesh. It gets better because right now at that time there was a huge, for the last decade plus, there has been a huge tussle going on between Khaleda Zia and the current Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina. Khaleda Zia is a pro-extremist kind of leader. And Sheikh Hasina is a democratic, pro-democracy leader. Mamata was in cahoots with Khaleda Zia. That is the picture that is emerging. Mamata Banerjee was in cahoots with Khaleda Zia because of her own vote bank here. Because what has been happening is, for the last 30 years, Bengal has been flooded by Bangladeshi Muslims. Okay. Which has been systematically changing the demographics. And they have been given voter ID cards, ration cards, gas subsidy cards, and this card and that card, and now even the national identity cards have been found in their possession. So which have biometric security, by the way. So the Communist Party before this for 34 years, and now Mamata Banerjee for the last 7-8 years has been doing all this. So there have now from Bengal, from maybe 90% Hindu state, has currently become a 70% Hindu state. Okay, so it's right now it's nearly 30% are Muslims, nearly, and some Christians and other religions also. And what Mamata has been doing is steadily Islamizing Bengal. It is it's a widely believed thing that she's a Muslim herself, though she says she's not a Muslim. Okay, she took her oath saying, "I swear loyalty by Ishwar and Allah." Ishwar is the Hindu term, Allah is the Islamic term.
Okay.
So she has been heavily Islamizing Bengal, and not only that, what she has done is she has been giving the mosques money, the madrasas money to sort of uh, to propagate Islam, and she has put all the Hindu sites in Bengal, all Hindu sites, all the Hindu pilgrimage sites, all the temples and everything, including the Shiva temples, which are one of the most sacred temples in India, but to a Muslim chap who is known to be a gangster. Her second in command is known to be a gangster. He's a gangster called Firad Hakim, also known as Bobby Hakim. She has given this guy the charge of maintaining all the religious institutions. But you know what that means? She's siphoning money off from, probably, this is allegedly, that she's siphoning money from these places. Because temples have untold amount of money and gold in them. There are more gold in Indian temples and with Indian women today than there is probably in the rest of Asia.
I've seen some of these temples before, and they always seem like they're very decked out in a lot of gold. Yeah, I believe that for sure. And the other danger, actually, about what you're talking about is siphoning off the cash from here and giving it to the mosque, is that many times these mosques have actually sent the money, either it's back home or it has been used to fund terrorist cells as well, whether in the country or outside the country. We have many different cases of that happening all over the world. My country, America, your country. So yeah, this is without a doubt exactly what she's doing they're doing.
No. What the government has done is with the demonetization thing and the GST thing is they have shut down the money laundering schemes. They have shut down black money. They have shut down they have linked everything to the national identity. Right? You have to give your national identity card number to when you're opening a bank account. You have to link your phone number and your bank account to that. So. And this become mandatory. So every form of cash transactions or any form of communications is linked to your national identity, right? Any large transactions you make is linked to your national identity number. So if government can keep an eye on who's doing what, right? In terms of black money and corruption. And that led to, and I'm going to talk about the West Bengal Chief Minister here, a chit fund scam, there were two chit fund scams which were exposed, which were siphoning millions of dollars, millions. Okay, well, it means nobody even knows how many millions. And who was involved in it? All of Mamata's cabinet ministers, Mamata Banerjee's cabinet, almost all of them. And two or three of them have already been arrested, and they're under questioning. Mamata's second in command has been arrested. That means who's next?
Her, him. It's a her or him?
It's her. It's a her. She. It's a she. It's a her. So she now. So she is in dire straits. She has no cash influx, and the government is not giving her money. She can't even get an appointment to meet the Prime Minister or even the Home Minister. The number 1 and 2 of the government, she can't get an appointment to. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And because she calls and please, I want to meet. Yes. My calendar is full. That's the answer she gets. My calendar is full. I'm sorry. And it has come to a point where the only projects that are running in West Bengal right now are central projects. No state projects are currently underway. Means even the ones which are underway have stopped.
They've completely cut the funding to them?
Yeah, they've completely cut funding. And
Good.
the problem with her is she has fostered so many goons that she doesn't have money to pay them now. So she has to get money from somewhere. So she has just tripled the electricity bills. She has per unit price. She has just tripled it. She has just put police and speed cameras at every junction, and she's just right, left, and center. She's stopping people and fining them. Okay, and she's just randomly putting cases on people. Like my grandmother, who's 80, she's 81 years old, right? She uses the car very seldom, but randomly her car has not been used for the last, say, 1 month. Randomly, there'll be suddenly, I'll check on the traffic police website, and there'll be randomly traffic infraction cases on it.
So so they're completely manipulating it in order to get the people in order to pay up. I mean,
Yes.
And they're doing this to your grandma?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
And see, that's the thing. And the best part is, guess who are exempt from these kind of tactics?
Her party and the people supporting her?
The Muslims. The Muslims are exempt because, oh man, she got so desperate in between, in like last year, she got really desperate and she started touring all temples. She went to the state of Odisha, which is the southern neighbor of Bengal. She went there and she wanted to go into the Puri Jagannath temple, which is one of the 4 great temples of India. It's a Shiva temple, when she went in there, she was told you cannot come in here by the priests over there. When she asked why can't I come in here, they told her you're not a Hindu. We don't believe you're a Hindu. You can't come in here. And she had to go back.
Well, this is what happens when you betray the people like this. And as I'm listening to this story, and as you and I have been talking more and more, I'm starting to notice a lot of similarities between what's going on in my country and what the left-wing parties in your country are doing too, because it's very similar to the way that Justin Trudeau has acted. And then in my province, we have our premier right now, Kathleen Wynne, and these are exactly the type of people they're appealing to right now. And, they're giving any exemptions or giving any sort of tax rebate they can to exactly the same sort of people, the people like the Islam, the Muslims and people like that.
See, it's like that hijab hoax thing that happened in Canada. You did a video about that too.
That's one of my most popular videos, actually.
Yeah. So see, because a Muslim girl wearing a hijab can just walk out today and say, "Oh, I was bullied and my hijab was cut up," and people just jump on it. What kind of situation is that? No due investigation, no proper procedure is followed, no nothing. Just take it on your word. And this is the problem. Dinesh D'Souza used to talk about Hillary Clinton. He said we should not elect Hillary Clinton because she represents the gangster version of America. Like she's gangsterizing politics. Now these things, like in West Bengal, in other parts of India, this is what gangsterized politics looks like, right? Because I'll tell you another case in Maharashtra, when the Nationalist Congress Party, which is a faction which split from the original Indian National Congress at one point, which is the Maharashtra branch, the NCP they are called, the Nationalist Congress Party, led by this guy called Sharad Pawar. He was a sugar baron. He's like multi-millionaire. He had links. He still has links to dons, like underworld mafia guys. Okay. Mafia guys, not the normal mafia guys. These are the Islamic mafia, right? They're the mafia guys who are Muslims. One of them is responsible for funding and orchestrating the 1993 Bombay bomb blasts, which killed more than 200 people. Dawood Ibrahim is currently hiding in Pakistan.
And she's associated with him. Wow, this really is gangster politics right here. And one thing that I've learned from
Mamata, Sharad Pawar is associated. He's a very senior politician from Maharashtra, which is just the northern neighbor of Karnataka. So these guys have gangsterized politics in such a way that electoral fraud is just bread and butter for these guys. Electoral fraud is nothing. Intimidation of voters and state election commission officers are nothing.
You actually more or less said what I was going to say, because I was going to say one thing I've learned from gangster politics, not just in modern history, but if we look in like previous history, even in like Roman areas like that, is that's exactly what they used to do. Is they used to go around and they would bully the population into voting the way they want, or scare them into staying home on election day, so that way that the person they're associated with gets into power. This actually happened. I think it was it may have been the 2012 American election, where the Black Panthers were literally taking up spots outside of election polls and were intimidating people who were coming inside in order to vote for the way that they wanted to, which would have been the left-wing party, Obama.
Wow. So see, but this I tell you is a step up. This is a step better than the what is happening in Bengal right now. Is a step better than the Communist Party when they were in charge. They used to straight up go to villages and like maim people and cut off their hands, cut off their legs, do stuff like that to sort of influence votes. And that's why always they used to get like 98% votes, landslide victory, 98% vote share.
Just because they would be literally cutting off people's limbs? Jesus.
Yeah.
Like I said, looks like your politics is way more cutthroat than ours.
See, it's not only cutthroat. Like, see, that's what Modi is trying to do. He's trying to de-gangsterize the politics. He's trying to bring in transparency, accountability to the politics here. And he's trying to make development the agenda and not like identity, not in that sense, not vote bank politics and all that. Identity politics. He's trying to move the people away. Like last year's the Islamic divorce law that came in, that the triple talaq law that they made. This was to move. That was intended to sort of give the Islamic community a bone, saying that okay, we are not here to, because the Islamic community believes that the BJP is a Hindu party and they don't care about the Muslims. They are in fact anti-Muslim, which is patently not true. But I'll tell you an interesting conversation that I had with a cab driver just a couple of days back. He was a Muslim guy, and I was talking to him about this the current panchayat elections, and he was raging against Mamata Banerjee. He was raging against Mamata Banerjee. He was saying that, she's just fleecing the people, she's doing this, that. And look at the arrogance. This guy says she's using her haram money, which is she's using her haram money to fund mosques. She should never, we will never accept haram money from her. She should use that haram money to go build temples. This is a cab driver sitting in front of a Hindu, and this is the way he's talking.
Wow. No problems, yeah.
As this, see, it says that don't build haram money, don't use haram money to build mosques. You're free to build temples. He's basically insulting Hindus.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going to my next point, is that I understand that like it's the halal and the haram when we come to Islam. And yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not good enough for us, but go build your temples with it. And it's so arrogant to say, just that, like, so blatantly in front of a Hindu. And I actually had something a few months ago very similar with a cab driver as well, actually, where he was kind of, the way he was talking about our politics was very similar. And I guess I kind of need my ride home, so I just sat there and listened more than anything else and didn't really comment. But, you know, the guy was just going off on the same sort of things, exactly what you're talking about, minus the temples.
No, but this guy, he was so chatty. I said, let me pretend to be a little bit of a novice. I just pretended to be the guy who knows nothing about politics, and I just questioned him a little bit. And I asked him that, okay, if you're not happy with Mamata, then who else do you want to come in and there? We will give votes to the Communist Party. We will go give votes to the Congress. They have been very nice to us. I said, okay, but the Congress Party and Communist Party are not in power. They have got no presence anymore, almost. The only other party which is coming up is BJP. You should vote for the BJP. They have done a lot for you, even with this triple talaq, with this divorce law and all this triple talaq law. So he says, no, we will never vote for the BJP. We have historically never voted for the BJP. And then he said something very interesting. He says the BJP doesn't want our votes.
Doesn't want their votes. They want everybody's votes. Every political party wants everybody's votes.
That is true. If they can, BJP never makes overtures to the Muslim community. They just ignore the Muslim community politically. They have ignored it for the last so many years Modi has been in power. They have not really talked about Muslim issues at all. They have not even mentioned. If you go through debate after debate, if you go through rally after rally, I don't think you will find any mention of Muslims anywhere, or Muslim issues, or anything for Muslims. They just simply, BJP has made this agenda saying we don't want Muslim votes. You either conform to society, or you get marginalized. You'll be left out. We don't want your votes.
Well, it's kind of the way it's supposed to go anyway, is that when you come into a society, you're supposed to conform to it. And this has actually been my problem with some of the things that's going on in my country now, is that a lot of the people we're bringing in is not conforming. And they want, in fact, they're looking for the citizens to conform to their needs instead. For instance, like number one, it's sort of, again, I've heard of this a lot of times when we're talking about, it's like, well, for instance, we're talking about the Conservative Party. Well, the Conservative Party doesn't like care about Muslim issues or something like that. And it's very similar too. You can go back and a lot of times it doesn't really come up unless we're talking about unless we're talking about something like has to do with terrorist attack, but they don't actually pander to the Muslim community in and of itself. And for that very reason, they're not very few of them are willing to actually vote for the Conservative Party. In fact, the ones that I would say are willing to vote for the Conservative Party are the ones that have come in and have recognized it's like, well, it's my job in another country to conform to them. And then when they kind of have that attitude, then they start looking towards the right-wing parties, and they actually see the right-wing parties as being actually more helpful to its citizens than the left-wing party. It's just the left-wing party is willing to give handouts to any community that's willing to vote for them, and they'll disregard any community that doesn't want to vote for them, which is one of the reasons we see right now in both our countries why these left-wing parties seem to be so against the people, like the citizens that are there. They're very against the Hindus, or they're very against the Canadian citizens right now.
No, it's not only that. See, about the Muslims is, first of all, there's a very large Muslim population in our country. It's like nearly 200 million Muslims, right? It's like the second or third largest Muslim population in the world. It was the largest Muslim population in the world till before Indonesia became larger. But currently, India has I think the second largest Muslim population in the world, about anywhere between 170 to 200 million Muslims. And see, and you notice this in your country also, where Indian Americans live or Hindus live, you will find that it's a normal place, right? But the moment you move into a Muslim majority area, you will see that this ghettoized thing that has happened. It will be distinctly Islamic.
Hey, yeah, exactly. That's actually some of the problems in Europe right now. Is one of the perfect one I can think was I believe it was Tim Pool when he was in Sweden, and there were these areas that were completely Islamicized. Like he got to drive through the areas with a local citizen, and it's just Arabic writing on the shops. It was Muslims everywhere, but none of the citizens were going in there. And he actually full out said that before he walked into these areas, the police were outside and they were telling him, "Don't go in there, man. Like we're not going to come in there to get you if you get into trouble." And he got forced out of it. And there was actually another group. It was a mainstream media. I think it was 60 Minutes. I think it was 60 Minutes. Their camera crew got attacked in one of those zones. Like their camera was smashed, and I think a couple of their people actually got like hit because of it, because people were coming up and saying, "Get out of here! You know, we don't want you filming," and everything like that. That's why, as harsh as it may seem, that's why a lot of people feel it's some sort of takeover, because they come in these areas, don't conform, but then they're demanding that everyone else conform to their beliefs. In fact, just I saw, maybe it was today, maybe it was yesterday, it was a video that came out of Belgium of an elderly man. Maybe not elderly, he may have been like his 50s, 60s, so middle-aged elderly, but he had been drinking just on a terrace, and he got attacked from it because alcohol is haram.
Oh God! Yeah, but I feel, sometimes I feel bad for the Muslims. They used to like ride camels and they used to live in tents, man. They suddenly found oil money that didn't know what to do with it, and then they started to, okay, we must do jihad, man. Because they didn't know anything better. They don't know any better than that. In their hearts, they're just tribals. So yeah, so that's the problem with the Muslims. Anyway, coming back to the electoral fraud issue. See, like for example, during the Gujarat elections in December last year, November, December, there was BJP. What they were doing was they were buying MLAs from Congress, right? This is what BJP does everywhere. What they do is they give the Congress MLAs money, and they say, you vote with us, or you join, or you break away from the Congress, or divide them. Okay. Now, Congress, what it did was during the Gujarat elections, it just took all its MLAs from Gujarat and it went to Karnataka. It went to Bangalore, and it just shut its MLAs in a resort. They took their mobile phones, They took all forms of communication from them. And somehow one of the news channels, they just broke into that resort, and they entered one of the rooms where there were towers of cash bundles from the floor to the roof.
Holy crap.
From the floor to the roof, there were towers of cash.
And this was in order to pay off the MLAs?
The Congress was using this money to pay off MLAs and let them have a good time while they were shut down before the voting happened for the upper house elections, for the central upper house elections. Because nominees, you need to nominate members to the upper house from the state legislative assemblies. Now the thing was that during this vote, what they did was they took these photographs and these videos of these cash towers, and they plastered it all over the TV saying "Dirty Congress Cash Towers." This was the hashtag that was running.
How did this not make international headlines? Because I didn't hear anything about this, and I haven't heard anybody bring this up. But this is a huge story for it just to get buried like this.
Dude, there are so many stories like this. You won't believe what the opposition is doing, what the opposition has been doing for 70 years. You can't believe the level of stuff that is happening in this country.
And that's actually been some of the problem with the media right now, is that when it comes to stuff when it comes to the scandals, the left that involve the left-wing parties, it seems like they're more than happy to cover it up. But any little thing that happens underneath the right-wing scandal, and it's blown out of proportion, and it's everywhere. It's all you hear about.
Now, I'll tell you something else. Why do you think there are so many Sikhs in the Liberal Party?
Aside from just that, I was just going to say, aside for the fact that maybe they're that the left-wing parties appeal to are actually be willing to give the Sikhs some money, or willing to fight for Sikh interests. That would be the only ones I can think of. But I'm sure you have a good reason for that. What is it?
No. Sikhs. There is a stereotype about Sikhs, right? They're very hardworking. They're very industrious people, but they're a little corrupt. They're very fond of the good life. So that almost it's always been associated that they're borrowing money. They're embezzling money from somewhere. So there's a small there is this. It's a little offensive, but okay. I'm just giving it for some context. But if you notice, there will be in India whole bunch of Congress politicians who are not their so-called racial friends. Okay, like the Democrat Party in the US calls itself the racial friend of the blacks, right? So the Liberal Party also has some similar line. The left in India has a similar line. Religious, they are the party of the religious minority. They are the party of the religious minority.
They like to present themselves as fighting for the little guy or fighting for the downtrodden. Exactly, yeah. It's pretty much the same thing over here.
So the 84 Sikh riots was done by the Congress, and you'll find a lot of Sikhs in the Congress, right? So Congress is a corrupt. It's a rotten party. If corruption has to be thrown out of the Congress today, there is no way Congress can survive. There is no way in any avatar it cannot survive.
Just because they rely so much on their corruption. I actually do. I can see that for sure, because again, I see a lot of it around the rest of the country. Not the rest of the country. I see a lot of it around the rest of the world. It seems to be very similar tactics wherever you go.
Just recently, just 2-3 days back, there was another hashtag which was trending in, I think, India, which was called Congress Dirty Cash. Congress, the dirty cash Congress was using to buy votes in Karnataka. 2 seats, 2 constituencies, the polling had to be suspended because the thing was so the cash for votes thing was so strong. Means there were so much cash was pumped in that they had to suspend elections in 2 seats in Karnataka this time.
I think I saw that in this was one of the articles that you sent me on the Discord. There was they were saying that some of them got suspended, and the voting actually was going to take place later on, like in the month rather than when it was scheduled to.
Yeah, I think it's close to your birthday. It's on 28th May.
Damn, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I'm the 29th of May. That's my birthday. And
Facebook
actually, yeah,
buddy, Facebook buddy can't hide any personal information.
I'm actually when you mentioned that hashtag, I just quickly jumped on Twitter on my phone, and there's a lot of different messages coming up underneath hashtag Congress Dirty Money right now, Dirty Cash, Congress Dirty Cash right now. Yeah, after hashtag fake voter ID by Congress, now Congress Dirty Cash. Out of this voter ID can affect elections, but no, not the dirty cash as voters have evolved. This will take cash and vote for ones who they want to. Yeah, exactly. I'm seeing plenty of messages talking about this on Twitter right now about the hashtag you were just saying. So yeah, but funny enough, despite that, there doesn't seem to be coming up anywhere along the trending list or anything like that. And it's funny how Twitter and them like to suppress any of the hashtags that don't actually any of the hashtags.
I'll tell you a funny story about Twitter. I'll tell you a funny story about Twitter in India.
All right.
And you love it because the head of Twitter in India is a Muslim. He has, let's just say, certain sympathies.
Putting it nicely.
He employs certain cybersecurity firms from Hyderabad, which is a den of Islamic terror in India. Hyderabad is in Andhra Pradesh. It's in the southern state of Andhra Pradesh. And a lot of extremists have come out of Hyderabad. The Indian Mujahideen has come out of Hyderabad. The whole bunch of other organizations. Al-Qaeda in India was working out of Hyderabad and Bangalore. A bunch of other organizations. Simi was also active in Hyderabad, which is the banned student Islamic organization. Now the thing is, Hyderabad, and anyway, so the Twitter, what they did was, when we were having the trouble with the stone pelting in Kashmir last year, the government sent a communication to an official government communication to Twitter saying there are some 115 or 200, some 115, I think was the number, 115 was the number, of these sort of handles which were talking anti-India. They were talking anti-India rhetoric, right? They were communicating to the public. They're disseminating inflammatory rhetoric through Twitter and shut them down. Ban those accounts, shut them down. What Twitter did was, Twitter released that communication on their official website. It was a classified communication. It was supposed to be classified, that you cannot release. Effectively warning those guys that go work from other handles.
Sorry, say that again?
What happened was, government sent a communication, an official communication to Twitter saying there are these handles which are talking anti-India and inflammatory rhetoric and pro-Islamist, pro-Pakistan rhetoric. Ban these accounts. Twitter released that communication to the public.
No way.
They did it.
Holy crap.
Then the government had to warn Twitter saying, if you do this again, there will be no more Twitter in India.
They would shut the whole thing down?
Yeah.
Damn. They would destroy a good thing for a lot of people just for this small little minority group, eh?
Yeah, but because see because it's a problem, and it's very appropriate that this stance was taken, was because what happened was that these guys who are setting out this inflammatory rhetoric in Kashmir, these guys are linked to Pakistan, ISI, and the terrorist groups in Pakistan. So they have to be kept in check. You cannot let their message get out. So it is imperative that Twitter and Facebook and all these companies, they follow this line. Facebook obviously has not done anything like this, but Facebook has been following government directives, especially after the Cambridge Analytica thing, that they've been trying to influence elections and all that. They had been hired by the Congress party, by the way, to influence elections.
Funny enough, also Facebook has been very involved with the Liberal Party of Canada, so it seems like they just love going to wherever the corruption is.
I don't think, me personally, I don't think Zuckerberg is an ideologue. He just wants to survive. He wants his business to survive. I think that's his only thing. Because I have never seen him take a political position before, like any serious political position. So yeah, because I don't think he's like one of those ideologues who is also a donor to the left and all that. He's not connected to the left in that way.
Okay.
So he might be a whatever, an armchair liberal, but that's about it. But the fact is that these guys have been. So that's the problem with Twitter in India. So we have Bold in the chat, I think.
Yeah, Bold's in the chat right now. I sent him a link if he wants to join, but maybe not. I think he just got off stream. He may be a little tired or something.
Yeah, that's true. It's past midnight too. So see, the funny thing is that as we were talking about gangsterized politics, the Islamists and these gangster politicians are in cahoots, right? The mafia, the Islamists, because the current ruling party has cornered the opposition in such a way. And I'll tell you something about the Muslim vote too. The Muslim vote now is fracturing, right?
They're starting to go towards they're starting to go towards Modi?
No, they're fracturing. I'll tell you something more interesting there. Right? Modi, what he has done is, with the triple talaq thing, that he has got Muslim women on BJP's side. Muslim women are very happy with the divorce law. Now they have some marriage security, which has been an issue in the Islamic community for a long time. And it has been talked about that the next issue that they're going to take up in the Islamic community and against the Sharia is polygamy and women's inheritance rights. So one by one, they're taking issues away from the politicians as far vote bank politics amongst the Muslims goes, identity politics goes with the Islamic community. And with the advent of this, what has happened is there are many people. BJP has ended up consolidating the Hindu vote. They have successfully projected themselves as the Hindu party. So all Hindus have shifted towards the BJP. And what the opposition is left with is maybe 20% of the country's population. They have to fight amongst themselves for that much vote. BJP is comfortable with 80% of the country's vote. And they are ruling in 21, I think, 21 states out of 29 or 28. 21 states out of 28 is under the BJP. Okay. Ouch. With Karnataka, even if Karnataka is a hung assembly, BJP will take that state by forming an alliance. They will just buy MLAs from everywhere and they will just make the government. That will be number 22. End of this year is the Mizoram election, which is a Congress-ruled state. Which will be the last. It's a very tiny state, so it's not really. And if they win Mizoram, which I think they will, even though it's a Christian majority state, it's I think 80% Christian. Congress will be reduced to just one state, which is Punjab. They will only be in Punjab, and that too. In Punjab, it is the chief minister's state. The chief minister won the election, not the Congress party. Amrinder Singh won the election. The guy who Trudeau met during his trip.
Oh, that guy. Okay, yeah.
He's from the Congress, but he's like not really Congress. He's like he was an Air Force officer at one point of time. He's from the Punjabi royal family and all that. So there's a bunch of things. So Congress will effectively, they're already talking about Congress in the terms of that Congress has been reduced to a federacy. They are empowering local chieftains now. That's how they talk about the Congress. That it's been reduced to a regional party. Like in some places, it is not even the primary regional party. It is like number 3, number 4 party.
Oh, wow. They are really not doing well for themselves if that's where they've been reduced to. Jesus. It sounds like actually where the Liberal Party was in here just maybe like 5-6 years ago, where they were always, if they weren't in charge, they were always the official opposition, and suddenly they lost everything and just went back down to they lost the official opposition party, and they were like third. Suddenly they were third in the in our politics.
Modi makes fun of the leftists in a very brilliant way. He says these guys in India have been reduced to a bunch of posters. So that's what he says. The Marxists have been to a bunch of posters here and there.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Because see, in Bengal, if you come to Calcutta, you'll see that every once so often there'll be these like shabby looking guys, like 10, 20 of them with holding Marxist flags. They'll say, we have to fight. They'll keep slanting those slogans, like just 10, 20 of them in a hustle and bustle in the middle of the city. They'll just do a march from between, like out of context. Nobody cares about the Marxists anymore. That is the thing.
Yeah. I was just going to say, why would they, with everything that that Marxism has brought in ever since its creation? It's brought nothing but it's not brought nothing but economic hardship and death and suffering for its people. And just whatever it was a week ago, it was like Karl Marx's 200th birthday, and everybody was just out there like, oh, Karl Marx, he did great things for everybody. You know, Karl Marx was right, but again, like, wasn't communism the biggest killer in the 20th century of humanity or something like that? Like, there was like over 150 million people killed in 1 century alone because of this political ideology.
How many? 100 million?
I think it's over 100, like 150 million back in the 20th century, because we got like 50 million that were dead in China. There was a good 20 to 30 million that were killed in Russia. Whereas at least 2 million, I believe, killed by the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. And those are just some of the main ones that we know.
No, I think those are very, very, you're being very kind and generous to the communist parties. I think it was 85 million roughly estimates that Mao killed. And it was, I think, 65 million that Stalin killed. And the Khmer Rouge killed half its country's population, nearly half its country's population, which was about 3.5 million to 4 million people.
Wow, I am too generous to them. Holy crap!
And I think even the Rwandan guy who killed about 1 million people, even he was a communist dictator. Hitler was a communist dictator, which not many people know. Mussolini was a communist dictator.
People just not many people know. What they like to do with Hitler is they like to conflate some of the things with him too, is because, like, they say, like, well, you know, he was a nationalist, which is a right-wing stance. It's like, yeah, but he also said he's a socialist, and there's quotes of Hitler going out where he says, we are the enemy of capitalism, we are socialists. And even a lot of his policies happen to be very socialist policies too, that he ended up enacting in his country.
No, everybody says, no, when people talk about Hitler's economic policies, you tell them, no, but he taxed his people so much. No, he only taxed the Jews a lot. But then you turn around and you have a look, say, no, he turned even the Germans he taxed up to 50%. Like, he was taxing them 50, plus more than 50%. He was taxing his own people. So Hitler was a communist. It was not that and as far as the nationalist thing is concerned, if a person says Hitler cannot be a leftist, he was a nationalist. Nationalist is a right-wing thing. You just turn around and ask them, so you're not a nationalist? You don't love your nation? You're not a nationalist? And you watch them flounder. And you watch the left flounder.
A number of them will gladly say that they are not nationalists. I remember maybe it was a week ago. I wasn't in a fight with a guy on Twitter. We actually had a pretty civil exchange between one another, but we were talking about nationalism because he was saying how nationalism was like the worst thing that like one of the worst things that's ever been developed, you know. And I was kind of saying, like, well, no, you know, of course anything when it goes too far is bad, but I was saying nationalism in its form, like we usually see it amongst the citizens, is mostly just patriotism. And patriotism, again, is actually a very positive thing for a country. You need to have your citizens on your side and be proud of who they are. Otherwise, you end up with someone like Justin Trudeau who says there is no such thing as a Canadian identity, or you get things like that. So we actually had a pretty civil exchange. We weren't like going at each other, but yeah, in the end, he was just like completely against the idea of nationalism in and of itself.
See, that's the thing. They conflate national pride with national supremacy. The national supremacy of any kind is a problem. All right. When you are saying that we are superior, we are a superior race or a superior nation, it doesn't work like that. We are better than you never works. That's the problem. But taking pride in your nation is a different thing. Nationalism and patriotism is basically taking pride. This whole thing of ethno-nationalism is a bad thing, is not a bad thing. White majority being patriotic and nationalistic is not a bad thing. Canadians being nationalistic, not a bad thing. Americans being nationalistic, not a bad thing. In India, the debate has become you are either nationalistic or you are anti-national. That's the debate going on currently, and that has destroyed the left, because the left cannot be true to their roots and being as rigid as they are. They can never say that they are nationalists. They can never say it. Okay, but now out of just sheer fear, they start saying, "Oh no, but we love India. We love Indian culture. We love all." See, what are you saying? You're living in India and you're saying you love Indian culture. That's like talking. You're talking like a tourist. A tourist says, "Oh, I love Indian culture. Oh, I love the whatever here," and it's become like that. The left and anything coming out of the left is getting destroyed. That's why you'll see a lot of movie stars don't want to touch the feminist topic. They don't want to touch the Me Too movement topic. They don't want to touch upon this gender identity politics topic. They don't want to do it, because what happens is, if when they do it, people stop watching their movies and they stop getting cast in new movies.
And that's actually was shown. That was actually shown just this past year for what was going on in the NFL, because the NFL was very picking up on that sort of thing. And what ended up happening, a lot of their ratings ended up dropping. Also, one thing, another thing that was going on is in the NBA. They would always have at halftime, they would have their little panels that's supposed to talk about, you know, how is the game going, or how is it going in other cities, you know, what are trades are going to come up in the next year or something like that, what's best for the team. But then suddenly you just had this entire black panel that we talking about racism in America and cops gunning down black people. It's like, that's not what people tune in for. People tune in for that sort of thing for their entertainment. They tune into it because they want to forget, just and for at least for a couple hours, just forget about the responsibilities of life and just enjoy themselves. But when you bring it into their entertainment, plenty of people just say, screw it, I'll go find another form of entertainment.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're talking about the ESPN thing that's been going on, right, for the last few years.
Yeah, so, pretty much.
See, the thing about that is, if America and Canada, they were so racist, how come majority of the sports people are black? How come majority of them have the opportunity and the infrastructure provided to them to make it to the top of their profession? How is that possible? They are dominating the sports profession, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's one thing I've wondered too. And also at the same time, one thing I've always found that was a contradiction when we're talking about the left is they want to up in our countries, they want to up immigration, but then they talk about how racist, sexist, and terrible the culture is. And my question is, well, if it's so terrible, why do you want to bring all these people in to an area where where by their definition they would have more hardship and they would be treated even worse than where they already are? Unless, like, you know, certain areas where they're talking about refugees, but they just want to general overall bring in more immigration.
Dude, that's way too complicated. If you ever get a chance to talk to Ikra Khalid or Cameron Ahmed or Linda Sarsour for that matter, or for anybody in the Muslim Students Association, right? If you ever get a chance to talk to these people, and if they're telling you that how bad Canada is, how racist Canada is, just ask them one simple question. If you're so unhappy with Canada or US for that matter, then why don't you go and live in the 57 or 58 other Muslim countries which have majority Islam and Islam as their state religion? Then go and live an Islamic life there. And many of these countries are oil-rich countries. But they won't do it. You know why? because they'll be treated like dog shit over there.
I think
Because
something like that. I think something like
because
that happened with Linda Sarsour, because she would talk about how, Muhammad was the first feminist and how Islam is very pro-woman. And then I think, I could be wrong on this, I think it was Saudi Arabia. It was like an article coming out of like Saudi Arabia or one of these like Arab, one of these Muslim countries that ended up saying it was like pretty much telling her, it's like, Linda, if you came here, you'd be treated like shit. It's like, stop. Like, yeah, I think it was these people. I think it was an article or something that was pretty much. I don't know exactly what the case was. I kind of heard it in passing. I didn't actually read the article itself, but more or less, they came out and just said, like, yeah, Linda, you don't know what you're talking about.
No, because see, that's the thing. Linda Sarsour, or for that matter, any other Ikra Khalid, she will never go and live in any other Islamic country. She will try and bring the Islam to Canada, but she will not go to the Islam because she doesn't want it. If Islam and Sharia come to Canada today, if Canada today becomes an Islamic country, Ikra Khalid will be the first person to run out. Linda Sarsour will be the first person to run out of US.
Yep.
She will take the first plane out because she doesn't want it. She doesn't want to live like that, treated like a second-class citizen.
And actually, a good example of that was actually in Germany, because one of the other discords I'm involved in with a guy called Mad Dodge, when someone posted a month or two ago an article where it was a feminist from Germany, and she was one of the main activists to encourage people to bring in during the migrant crisis in 2015. She was one of the first people to encourage, we need to bring in these immigrants. And then a couple of years later, she's saying that she was trying to move to, I think it was Poland or something. Like Poland, I believe, is the country that has said, like, we're not taking on any refugees or anything. And she said, like, she made a huge mistake, and she's trying to move to Poland. So she brought this in, she caused the problems, and now she's running away from the problems. We're also seeing that in San Diego, because there's a huge exodus in San Diego, which is considered a sanctuary city in America. And now suddenly all the people that were advocating for this are saying, oh, I don't want to live here, and they're running away. But what do? They run somewhere else, and they do it all over again.
because what happens with Muslims is, whenever they congregate, that area becomes a ghetto. They don't want to live in a ghetto, but it becomes a ghetto. Why? Because they cannot break out of that mindset, that servitude to the Maulvi. They can't break out of that. Their Maulvi dictates their lives, and they don't want that. That is the reason why they left in the first place. And they came to this Western country where there is no Islam, and suddenly they find Islam is following them. They don't want that. They don't want the camels and the tanks to come to America. They don't want that. They've had enough of that. So, see, but that's the thing. Amongst Islamic, in the Islamic community, amongst the Muslim, you find the problems in the Muslim girls. Where they're all about Islam. They're breathing fire. Muslim girls and boys breathing fire about Islam till it comes to the fact that they don't get to date who they want. The moment the question becomes about dating, they start crying and throwing tantrums, and they start breaking away from their families. So it's always the case. And anyway, so coming back to the Islamic community in India, the fact, and the Islamic vote in India, the vote is fracturing amongst, there are maybe 100 parties vying for the Muslim vote and for the minority vote, and there is only one party for the Hindus, and which is 80% of the country. So electorally, it's a gold mine for the BJP, and then BJP has just put in a bunch of players who are just taking the Muslim votes right, left, and center. And another thing, interesting thing about related to the topic we were talking about right now, is Muslims do not want to vote in India. They do not vote for Muslim leaders. They don't like voting for Muslim leaders.
Why not?
They don't. For whatever reason, they feel that the Muslim leaders will further ghettoize them.
Oh, that's a little ironic.
Yeah, they feel that, right? They talk all fire and brimstone about the Quran and all this and all that, but in the end, they are very unhappy if a person very heavily connected to Maulvis and Islam is elected as their leader or stands for the leader. because Muslims don't vote for other Muslims. This has been a very long-standing Indian electoral tradition since independence. So it's a very weird thing, right? Because they try and build this thing that, oh, we are unified, we are this, we are that, we vote together, we are a single block, we are the most valuable voting community in India. But when it comes to the actual electoral process, they are the first people to sort of collapse or to cut and run, right? Because they have reduced themselves to basically cattle. That, okay, we are cattle, we will vote for anybody our herder tells us to vote. And they are most unhappy if their herder, and the thing about cattle is the herd is most unhappy if their leader is another cow or a buffalo for that matter. So they don't want that. They want a proper herder. They want a human being to lead them. It's a little reductive, but you get the metaphor.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Oh, Jesus.
See,
wow.
and the other thing is, people think that the greatest enemy of Islam is the West. That's what Islam propagates in the West. In India, the Muslims propagate the greatest enemy of Islam are the Hindus. So they have this weird thing going on, and electorally, that is why BJP has started saying we don't want your vote.
That's not a bad strategy. The Modi and his party knows what they're doing, eh?
And Modi has given money and is funding to a bunch of other people, saying fracture the Muslim vote. Have 100 parties vying for the Muslim vote, then the Muslim vote will get divided by 100, right? And this is the problem which the opposition is facing, that there are 100 parties vying and the opposition can't get along on this issue. The opposition is like snake and mongoose are getting into an alliance, right? There was recently a 11-party coalition that is being stitched up, and they're all snake and mongoose together. They're all opposites: cat, dog, snake, mongoose, elephant, mouse, all together. You think a coalition like that politically would ever last? People who can't stand each other are having to join hands to fight the BJP. You think they tried to do it in Bihar in 2015, right? Where they defeated the BJP. They formed a coalition and they defeated the BJP. BJP was the single largest party by vote, right? By the number of seats it got. But the others formed a coalition and kept BJP out. What happened? The two leaders who formed the government, one was Nitish Kumar, who was the chief minister, and one was Lalu Prasad, who was this corrupt guy. He was in cahoots with a gangster. There was a expose done on him where he was talking to a gangster who was telling him what to do sitting in jail. A gangster who had been arrested sitting in jail was over the phone telling him what to do, who to pay up, how much money to give to who.
Oh, no way.
This guy got his party. He himself couldn't fight the election because he had gone to jail for many years for corruption. And he cannot fight elections. But what he did was, instead of standing for election himself, because he was the face of the party, he got his community to en masse vote for the coalition. So the Indian National Congress, this RJD, the corrupt guy's party, and Nitish Kumar's party, the JDU, they got together and they formed this thing called the Grand Alliance to defeat the BJP. What happened? 2 years into the alliance, what the BJP did was they just plastered the corruption being done by Lalu Prasad on TV. Means 24/7 they were just showing how corrupt this other guy was. He has been to jail, what he's doing, he's got ties to gangsters, he's this, he's that. They just, for an entire 2-year period, they just plastered this guy's name on TV saying how corrupt he is. Look at, But they didn't speak. They didn't talk smack about the other guy, Nitish Kumar, who was the chief minister. So what it did was Nitish Kumar came under so much pressure he had to break the alliance. And what happened? BJP said, "Come to us. Let us form the government." And the funny thing was, they ended up forming the government, and now BJP is ruling Bihar. What did they do? Now they have convicted Lalu Prasad, and they have given him 3 consecutive life sentences.
3
for corruption. I think it's 3 consecutive. No, 3 20-year sentences.
Still, he's going to be dead before he gets. He's able to.
He's 75 now. He's 75 or 76 now. You think he's going to survive?
He's going to die in prison.
Yeah. So, and they confiscated all his property, and not only that, they confiscated the property of his children and his wife. And his children and his wife might also go to jail now. He has got 1 daughter and 2 sons who might go to jail.
Were they involved in this corruption?
Yes. Because what this guy did was he did all the corruption not when he thought that it is drawing too much attention to me. He started doing it in the name of his children and his wife.
Oh man. So he literally brought down his entire family just for this whole for control. Yeah. He literally threw them under the bus for his own sake.
No, they were complicit. They were absolutely complicit because his daughter's husband, who was, I think, a businessman, he benefited tremendously. So the level of corruption that has just come into the public view in the last 4 or 5 years, in fact, I would say last 15 years, has been mind-boggling. It is said that during the 10-year reign of the previous government, the United Progressive Alliance, the Congress Party Alliance, when they were in power for the 10 years prior to Modi, apparently anywhere between 10 to 20 trillion dollars were siphoned out of the country.
Holy crap. Trillion, not billion.
Not billion, trillion. Because currently, that time's the finance minister, Chidambaram, who is a very interesting character with his links to terror and all that. Chidambaram, what has been raided, his son is on the way to jail. His son is in jail almost. His son is in jail, he's out on bail right now. His son is in jail for short selling. What happened was, Chidambaram, when he was finance minister, what he did was, his son used to own this, I don't know, some kind of finance firm in Singapore and in the UK. Chidambaram manipulated the Federal Reserve rates in India, the currency rates in India, so that his son could short sell the Indian currency in comparison to foreign currency and make a profit. They would purposely devalue the currency for say a week, and then increase the value to make a profit.
Wow, that's almost
stuff like that.
That's it sounds very similar to what we hear about they talk about stock market manipulation. It's like devaluing, and then that's when you buy up all the shares, and then you then everything goes back up. You sell the shares when they're high again.
See, the kind of corruption that has gone on the 70 years prior to Modi is unbelievable. Means at one point people were so fed up. We used to think we were one of the African countries. Like the corruption was so much.
And actually, I was just going to say that. Go ahead. You can finish up, and then I'll go.
No. But that's the thing. But now that Modi had made a statement that in the parliament, in one of the sessions, that the people shouting against the anti-corruption measures are the ones who are involved in it the most. And he made this passionate monologue he delivered, saying that you won't believe how much mud I have to wade through every day. If I were just to bring out the pink slips for any of these guys would be finished. But I am not like that. I believe in the law taking its own course.
And actually, go ahead.
yeah, the last point I want to see. So, that caught on. The amount, the people started supporting Modi even more after that, saying that the amount of mud he's wading through for us. Politically brilliant, but you get the idea. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say what you were saying that Modi talked about. It's actually very similar to the philosophy I have when I'm dealing with people. Is that the more somebody either says they're for something or against something, generally I've noticed that they're just trying to cover up for themselves or trying not to admit something to themselves. And so that's one way the more and more someone says something, I've actually become more suspicious about it. And just talking about all this corruption is going back to, hold on, share my screen for a quick second. And can you see the article?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highlighted a couple areas, like this one of the articles you sent me. I just highlighted a couple of the areas of showing like the corruption that we're seeing right now, which, I thought this was a much bigger story when I first read it, but just talking to you right now, this just seems to be par for the course. But as we just see here, it says the election authorities have named Munirathna, and I'm sorry if I'm screwing up any of these names, the Congress MLA seeking re-election from
Rajeshwari.
Thank you. In the first information report, the Bengaluru police have registered in the case the detection and seizure of about 10,000 voter identity cards from a Jalahali apartment on Tuesday. The seizure included other accessories as well. Going down here, and it ends up going on. It says, according to the source, the model code for the conduct team that was first investigating the matter randomly picked 801 voter ID cards from the stashed 9,000 odd cards at the tabletop verification. It found that 801 cards belonged to 31 polling stations in the RR Nagar constituency. About 680 of the cards that were randomly picked were included in the mother electoral roll, while the remaining were included during the summary revision. It confirms that the voter ID were not newly printed. Voter names were included in the list over the years, and that their cards were collected by the accused recently in an attempt to induce voters during an election. And then the officer ends up saying, we made some random visits to the house on voters whose cards were found in the apartment. When we asked them to produce their cards, the voters failed to show their cards, and their reply was not convincing. So this is just going back to saying exactly what you have been talking about already, about all this corruption that's gone on. And again, I thought this was sort of like, holy crap, like this is something big coming out, like this is getting revealed. But as apparently you've told me, this is just going on for everything that they've done for the last 70 years.
And Modi is trying his level best, and he is succeeding very, very much so in changing this culture. And he has ended up changing this culture, because Modi, what he did was basically, especially these raids which you talked about. First of all, the Economic Times, the article where you the outlet which you read the article from is a very left outlet. Okay, let's so, and they are very anti-Modi. So you can, when they are writing an article like this, you can understand how much pressure the left is under, how much pressure Modi has put the left under. Like if they talk about Modi, because they get abused day and night. It's become a machine. It's like become a troll machine. Anybody who talks against Modi gets trolled. That's become the rule. You can put it in the constitution. It's become like that. But the thing is about this issue. These raids which were done, they are not investigating it. They just raided it. They just did the raids. They wrote the FIR. They got the FIR written, and they just did the raids. They did not at all investigate it. They have not begun the investigation, because the aim of this was to defame the Congress.
It was just to defame them?
It was just to defame the Congress, because it is much more beneficial to just defame the Congress and have them lose the election. Right? So see, obviously they will investigate it, because this guy is a small fry. This guy is just a small fry in one constituency. But on the other hand, the West Bengal chief minister is not a small fry. That woman, they are after her life. They are after her life. The Panchayat election polls are today. Panchayat election polls are tomorrow. They're tomorrow. What happened was she went to court saying that she intimidated about 34% or 34.2% of the candidates It's a rural election, rural council elections, and these means there are many hundreds, there are thousands of candidates. So she influenced more than 34% of those, more than one third of the candidates. She intimidated them, and she got her own candidates in those seats, in those constituencies. And without opposition, she got those people into the seats without opposition. The Calcutta High Court junked that. She had gone to Calcutta High Court, and she had intimidated the High Court into saying, let this go through. What BJP did was, BJP went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court stayed the Calcutta High Court order, and they said, though this is junk, we will have fresh polling on the 14th of May. So today is 14th. Oh, today's the 14th, and today is the election. And Mamata, it was a setback for Mamata Banerjee. It was a setback for the Bengal Chief Minister, and now she has to face. But what in the whole thing, what BJP has done is, they have allowed Mamata to do all this. They have allowed her to do this so that she can defame herself. They don't even need to defame her. Because Modi is a master of defaming people. And another thing is a master at is playing the victim. Mamata Banerjee, the current Chief Minister of Bengal, she is another master at playing the victim, because she came up as a social activist. So she is a master at playing the victim. What BJP has not allowed her to do in the whole affair is play the victim, which is her greatest asset. And she has just gone all out, and they've just highlighted where she has been, in a thuggish manner, intimidating people and how corrupt she is. So politically, she is under so much pressure that she has now lost all sense of proportion, and she's getting into all this election intimidation, thuggish behavior, voter fraud, Islamic whatever. Okay, and now she has stopped even. She's not now stopped even mentioning the Islamic community. She just said, "I'm a Hindu," which nobody believes.
Well, now she's trying to get back all the votes she's lost because her other strategy didn't work. Now it's like, oh, no, guys, I'm just one of you now.
Yeah, but still not working. People are pissed off with her. Because why? Because she has pissed off the people by raising the electricity costs. She has raised the traffic, these injunctions, all these things. She's just raised the price of amenities, civic amenities, by a huge amount. She's raised property taxes by 20%.
Wow. That's oh Jesus! That's how one way to really piss people off is to raise their property tax.
Because why? Because she has no revenues. All the illegal money laundering routes are closed to her. All the chit funds scams and all that have been closed down. All the Islamic money and foreign contributions she was getting, that has been closed down. Black money she had has been seized. She has no revenue, no illegal revenue stream which she had earlier, which she was absolutely enjoying earlier. This unending stream of illegal cash she was getting in the hundreds of millions has suddenly just dried up. And the government is telling her, any help you want from the central government, you have to pay for it. You want central police to monitor polling booths or Maoist affected areas, you have to pay for it. They handed her a huge bill of something like $40 odd million just for central police presence in West Bengal for Maoist affected areas, which she could not pay. So West Bengal so the center just removed the central police from it. So that's the thing.
The biggest danger to her by what she's done too is because what you're saying is how she has so many goons surrounding her right now is the fact that those goons are going to want to get paid, and when they don't get paid, they're going to come to her looking for it, and that's not going to end well for her. We've heard many times how these stories end, so you never know. Maybe she will just one day up and disappear if she's not paying these goons off.
Exactly. Now, and where do you think she's getting that money from now? Because all these other streams are closed. Where is she getting it from? Property taxes, electricity, water. By raising the bill amount on this, she gets to fund her state coffers. Because the communists drove out all industry from West Bengal, so there is no industry in West Bengal. There is no businesses in West Bengal. There's nothing like that. So where does she get her funding from? Where does she collect her taxes from?
From the people.
And the fact is that she she was earlier part of the Congress. Okay, she broke away from the Congress and formed her own party called the Trinamool Congress. Okay, just like the NCP from Maharashtra. She broke away from the Congress, she came up as an activist, and she projected herself as the anti-left candidate. Like she was against the communists. But the fact was that over time, she found that the only way to beat the left was to become more left. And that's what ended up happening. She became more left than the left.
Well, once again, we see how this strategy works out for a lot of these politicians. They go far left, and sure, I think they gain support for a little bit. But one of the problems, maybe it's the same thing in your country. I don't know how many right-wing parties there are, but in my country, for sure, one of the big problems that the left-wing party has is that there's so many left-wing parties that they split the vote amongst, whether that happens to be among the Greens, the Liberals, the NDP. And right now, it's in federal politics, there's really only one right-wing party. So the right wing is standing together while the left wing keeps fracturing itself. And I find that this is what happens when you keep putting people in different groups. You know, when you want to separate people along gender lines or race lines, is you're just going to have even more friction amongst these groups. When you take that away, you have a much more unified party.
Right now the news is on. And it's saying Bengal poll violence. Hashtag is Bengal poll violence. Unprecedented violence in polls today. Right now. Current going on right now.
Wow, no way. Like this is like pretty much confirming everything we're talking about right now. Oh my God. That's too perfect. That is too well timed.
7 incidents of violence reported. TMC minister assaults BJP worker.
Assaulting BJP worker. Oh, there we go. They're even turning on Modi's people right now. So we know where the violence is coming from. We know where the corruption is coming from. We know who the bad people are.
Wow. 11 incidents of violence in 3 hours. What? This is the 9th video. BJP worker stabbed. Holy shit.
Holy shit, man. This is really extreme what's going on over there. But these must be her goons that are going around doing this, trying to intimidate people and trying to prevent them from going.
Her minister stabbed a BJP worker.
It was a minister?
It was a minister.
Holy crap.
Oh, okay, I get it. It's in Malda. Malda is a Muslim-dominated area. I get it. Oof. Oh. But see, but this is what BJP wants her to do. They want her to sort of defame. They want her to defame herself to a point where people just say, we don't want to vote. And then BJP will, with open arms, stand there, please vote for us. And they will get all the votes. But see, this is a sign of desperation. Why do you think she is resorting to violence? Because she knows her time is up. But this is like basically her last resort.
Yeah, it's her last stand, and she has no other choice but to turn to violence and sick her goons on the people in the election, and apparently ministers.
because BJP can end today Modi can declare president's rule on Bengal and dismiss the government. They can do it today, but they won't do it because they want Mamata to defame herself. That is the basic goal. And they want to show everybody, see who you have chosen. Now choose better next time.
You know, this is perfect, because like we're seeing exactly what happens when you're able to more or less shame your enemy or turn their tactics against them. Because one guy, do you know who Gad Sad is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gadfather.
The Gadfather. One thing I love about watching the Gadfather at work is when he turns the left-wing narrative against each other. Like somebody will come in and talk about how terrible he is. And he's just like, wait. I'm an overweight Jew who is thrown out of my country and I have brown skin. Are you attacking me for this? He literally turns the victim narrative around on him. And what happens? They all back off because they're like, oh shit, now I look like I'm being the hateful one. And more often than not, too, especially in our country, it'll be like a white person saying this to him. And he's like, are you attacking me, a minority who has been, through so much in my life? How could you do something like that? Oh, man. Nope.
Oh, see, this is the very thing that Modi uses. Modi is an Oscar-winning performer as far as playing the victim goes. You can just like parliamentary session after session, you can just go in, hand him the Oscar, come out for playing the victim, because that's all he does 24/7. He plays the victim, and people just hook, line, and sinker, they fall for it. All the and he gets the votes.
You know what?
And he's destroying the left.
You know what? Everybody likes to talk how Trump plays a good game of 4D chess, but you know what? I think Modi is the king of playing 4D chess. From everything that we've talked about, just all of since we've met each other, and everything you told me about Modi, he is the king of 4D chess.
He's the master. He's a master politician. They call him the 24/7 politician. Him and his number two, Amit Shah, the president of the BJP. Their team. Amit Shah he used to be a poll booth official, state election committee for the election commission. From there, he joined the BJP and he came up, and today is the party of the BJP. He's the party president of the BJP. He's a master. He's a Machiavellian guy as far as poll strategies are concerned. And some of the poll strategies he has come up with, if you study them, they're masterpieces of just electoral strategy. The way he has outsmarted the opposition, Amit Shah, under the direction of Modi, that it has become like he has become like the Babadook. He's become like the bogeyman of like they don't want to take his name. And if they take his name, it is like he's corrupt, he's this, he's that, it's just name calling. Otherwise, they don't even want to take his name. So, and the funny thing is, most of these opposition guys, they can't even today as things stand today, they can't even get a meeting with any of these guys. Nobody will meet them in the BJP. If they go to the central government and want a meeting, they will not get a meeting because they have cornered themselves so much. Because at one point, Mamata used to openly abuse Modi during the day and in the evening call Modi and say, "I'm sorry." I'm not joking. That was happening at one point of time. Why? Because Modi had put that terrorism case on her for fostering those terrorists.
Oh man, that's too funny.
So they used to say, please, we have political compulsions. Let us abuse you during the day, but we will vote with you in the parliament. And they were all voting on the bills with BJP in parliament. And the Congress was every day asking them, why are you voting with BJP? You are abusing BJP outside the parliament, and you are coming into parliament and voting on the bills with BJP. Why are you doing this? They are saying we have a compulsion. They'll send us to jail otherwise. Oh God. Oh God, it's so funny when you see, because violence and all this is serious business. But when you start looking at it from this lens, that it becomes so humorous. It's such a hilarious situation that this predicament they find themselves politically is so hilarious that you can't let a local issue sort of block out the big picture. The big picture has to be seen. If you start looking into the big picture, what is happening in Canada right now, the Liberal Party is in a similar predicament. Why do you think Antifa has suddenly come out in the US and doing that much violence?
Because they were almost more or less destroyed by Trump, even though there seemed to be almost a 50% vote for Hillary Clinton. Since Trump's come into office, he has actually done more to destroy the left and the Democratic Party, to the point where now, actually just whatever it was a week ago, an article comes out about talking about how support for the Democratic Party has never been lower. And this is coming just months after they're saying, well, 2018 in the gubernatorial elections, there's going to be a blue wave, but that blue wave has been more or less stopped by them. And this is exactly what Modi's doing. And yeah, we are starting to see this in my country as well. It seems like almost worldwide, we're seeing the left slowly getting pushed back.
See, Antifa is the the thuggish arm of the Democratic Party. Just like at one point of time, the KKK was the racist arm of the domestic terror arm of the Democratic Party. Antifa is the new KKK, basically. Right? All these Black Lives Matter, like all these guys, they're all connected to they are the domestic terror arm. The Democratic Party is now using the goons. Just like Mamata Banerjee here is using the goons. to get her. She's blocking voters. She's what?
Something happened.
Two Communist Party workers, two Communist Party of India Marxist Party workers, a bomb was hurled at them.
A bomb?
A bomb, and they were injured.
Holy crap.
One CPM worker murdered.
Was there any of this violence up until today, like during the polls? Was there anything like this going on?
Not this openly. Not this openly. Before the polls, not during the polls. Before the polls, maybe after the polls a little bit in terms of retaliation, but not at this level. She's doing it openly.
And I find that a lot of times that people try and draw a false equivalence when they're starting to talk about some of the violence that goes on. Like that was one thing that I found that happened with Charlottesville last year. Is a lot of people were trying to act as if when Trump condemned both sides for the violence, and then they're trying to act as if he was supporting the alt-right in what was going on in Charlottesville. But this isn't the case at all. Meanwhile, they're completely ignoring the violence that goes on with Antifa, or they're at least ignoring the violence that is connected to the Democratic Party and a lot of the other violence from these left-wing parties. Yet all the time they want to talk about right-wing extremism and right-wing terrorism if it's something like just as significant. I remember a few years ago, I was watching, the Young Turks?
Yep.
They came out with a report where they're talking about like why people shouldn't be so afraid of Islamic terrorism because right-wing terrorism causes 80% of the deaths from terrorism in the United States. When how often do you really hear of a right-wing extremist group committing some sort of violent terrorist attack like this? But meanwhile, we always hear about what's going on the left. Antifa has been so prominent ever since Trump got elected, but everyone always wants to overlook that or make it seem like, no, this is just a small fringe group and they have no connection politically. But meanwhile, they openly support the Democratic Party. They'll openly support certain candidates on the left-wing party, whether that's Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, or we're talking your countries. Yeah, people try and draw this false equivalency.
No, but see, white supremacists, whether it be the Aryan Brotherhood or whether it be the neo-Nazis or whether it be whoever, skinheads, all these white supremacist groups, including the KKK, have been historically Democratic voters, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Most of the KKK voters were Democratic. And actually, one thing, when I started moving more towards the right, I always thought, like, it was always presented as back in, I guess it was about the 50s or 60s in America, when they were starting to get away from the Jim Crow laws and they were getting away from segregation. They were making it seem like it was a lot of Republicans that were against it. And there were Republicans who were against it for sure. But that famous image of the politician who's standing in front of the school and like not letting the black kids enter. And then I think it was the same dude. It may have been a different politician, but he was saying like segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. These were Democrats who were doing that. They were the ones who are openly saying that they want segregation. And let's not forget that during the Civil War in America, who was fighting for slavery? The Democrats.
See, Dinesh D'Souza said this very interesting thing about Chuck Schumer once, right? When Dinesh D'Souza during the Reagan administration was working in the Reagan White House, apparently at some state function, Chuck Schumer walked up to Dinesh D'Souza and one more Indian friend of his and just openly said, I don't get you Indians because we are quite willing to be your friend. You should, we will give you benefits in exchange for your vote. All other minorities in America vote for us. Why don't you Indians vote for us?
Oh, sorry about that. I just got distracted by, I got quickly distracted by just something I saw on the chat. Just bold. It was like telling me to translate from Spanish or something like that.
What? What did you say?
Oh, like there was like the message in chat from Bull. It's like, now I'm trolling in Espanol, fucking communists or something. That just threw me off for a second. I haven't been checking out the chat for a little bit, so that's
George Wallace, Alabama governor.
Oh, is that the one who was that's the one from the segregation we're talking about, eh? He was the politician?
Yeah. Yeah,
There we go.
doing some hard trolling now. Trolling some people in Spanish. Ramon, how does he know Spanish?
I have no idea. I have no
That
idea
man
how he
has
knows
many talents.
Spanish. He's a
That man
master
has many
troller, though.
talents.
But anyway, oh crap, I had a point and then I forgot it. Oh yeah, what I was going to say is that also another strategy that is used often is that they try and suggest as if the right is the one that's trying to divide the populace. You know, all the time they're saying, like, whether it be Trump or right now, that's exactly what in my provincial elections, what Doug Ford is going through. He's being told that everyone's saying that, well, he's trying to divide the population. But time and time again, it's just been proven that the left is trying to divide the population. I mean, this is what happens when they talk about things such as white privilege or Hindu privilege or this or that or the other.
No, amongst Hindus, it's also upper caste privilege, right? The Brahmins have been tyrannically ruling over the lower castes and all. So anyway, so see, first of all, dude, every time you take Doug Ford's name or you talk about Doug Ford, I always like remember that image that you use for your Doug Ford video with Doug Ford standing with a lightsaber. For some reason, I always remember that video. That is a hilarious picture.
I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. It was just I was trying to think of a thumbnail, and then just I started thinking of Star Wars, and I was like, "Yeah, that works out," and it was perfect. Yeah, I like that thumbnail. That's one of my favorite thumbnails I've made too. But this is kind of how I felt, you know. It was like when Doug Ford came in, it felt like this change that was coming in the air, and it felt like a lot of ways like something like this, like almost Return of the Jedi. You know, it's like we've been underneath the liberal rule for so long and things seemed like they were going bad, and then suddenly here came in a guy that was going to change everything, and he was finally doing something that seemed like it was in the benefit of the people. You know, he's trying to actually help out the common man, but then he's being portrayed as some sort of hateful person, like he's going to line the pockets of the rich. But you know what, time and time again I've seen it that time and time again I've seen that there's a left-wing party that lines the pockets of their friends. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, there was this other guy. See, Doug Ford has come up as like one of the guys who's sort of uniting the conservatives, at least in Ontario, right?
Yep.
So there was this other guy. What's his name? He's on that show Shark Week. Kevin something.
Oh, Kevin O'Leary.
Kevin O'Leary. He was also projecting himself as the new Trump or something, but that somehow just fizzled out, right?
Yeah, he did. I don't know exactly why he dropped out, because in every single poll, they had him leading by a significant amount. He said that the reason he ended up dropping out, which was about a month before the actual voting for it, he ended up saying it was because he didn't believe that he could beat Justin Trudeau in election. I think it had more to do that he was kind of starting to realize that he had a couple years as the conservative leader before he could actually even go to the polls against Justin Trudeau. And I think he had some worry that he may not have actually had the knowledge to be a political leader yet. I think it's possible we may see him again in the future. Like next time that the Conservatives need a leader, I think it's quite possible that he might jump back into it. Yeah, it was for me, I wasn't sure how I felt about him at first, but I did like about how he was mixing things up, that he was coming in as an outsider and he had that same sort of attitude as Trump, that he's like, I'm not going to take any shit and I'm going to do things differently. I like that, but again, I don't know necessarily when it came down to it.
You didn't feel he was genuine enough. You didn't feel he was genuine enough. Like the way you feel Doug Ford is genuine. You don't think Kevin O'Leary is genuine.
I guess that would be maybe a little more accurate way to put it. Yeah. And the thing is, too, is at least Doug Ford has the time he spent a lot of time in politics already, where again, Kevin O'Leary knew about business. He had built himself up several different businesses, but when it came to actually political knowledge, I don't know how much he actually held. So I think this is one reason why he dropped out.
Yeah. So anyway, but the thing is, tell me something. I don't have any information about. Does the Liberal Party or any left party? I'm sure NDP might have something. Does it have something like something like an equivalent to Antifa or its own goon squad?
What was that? Sorry, say that again.
Does the Liberal Party or the NDP have its own like Antifa like goon squad in Canada?
Yeah, we do have our own version of it. It pretty much, I find that things like that are usually just kind of a ripoff from the States. So we do have our own Antifa groups up here, and those are usually their goons that we're talking about.
Yeah. See, but that's the thing. Where Canadians are quite adamant on the fact that they're really Canadian and not American. Most Canadians would reiterate the fact that they are Canadian and not American, and they would do it again and again just to just for effect. It's really interesting to see how why people are ripping off a lot of ideas from the US. Like Canadians should have their own ideas for their own society, right?
Yeah, and actually, a lot of Canadian image is based on being, I guess, in some ways you can say it's anti-American, but it's not so much that that it's a dislike for America. It's just the idea that you want to be different, and a lot of it, I think, is because the fact that we're so close to them and we have such similar cultures. Canada can a lot of time be overlooked or sometimes compared a little too much to America, and a lot of Canadians they kind of like that idea of being a little bit different. It's like that. I guess it's more of a left wing, maybe more liberal idea of holding it, but they like the idea that they're different than America like this. So that way they can. I don't like talking about my own country this way, but a lot of times it's sort of like taking the moral high ground, like, well, America does this, we don't do this. And a good example actually is the Toronto attack that took place, I guess, coming up on almost a month ago now, I think, or maybe not even. But the Toronto attack that took, where the guy ended up running down the pedestrians on Yonge Street was afterwards the cop refused to shoot him. And then there was all these articles about how Canadian cops are better or better trained, or this is why we're different than American cops. So a lot of it just, again, I think is because our cultures are so similar. It has a lot to do with just wanting to be different than this country. But in the process of doing that, one problem I do have is a lot of people will shit on America when they shouldn't, or don't appreciate America when they should. Because one thing I really appreciate America for is I don't believe that my country would be as safe as it is now if it wasn't for having America along its border. At least if we're talking about how our military strength is, our individual soldiers are trained pretty well. But we're talking about less than 100,000 people in our military, including regular forces and reserves, and we have practically no navy. So if we were actually in an area where we had dangers of getting invaded, we would not have such a safe culture as we do now.
No, but you don't have a navy.
Well, we have a navy. It's very small. Our ships are crap. And actually, I had a buddy who joined the navy after high school, and I ran into him a couple of years later, and he said like half of our ships are in dry dock right now. And if we even look at something like the subs we have, they're all like subs that have been pre-used. They're kind of shitty, but we ended up buying them instead of investing in new ones. So it's just because we've lived so close to America and we're part of the NATO alliance, we just haven't taken our defense very seriously. Also, I think, again, because we're surrounded we have 3 oceans surrounding us, and then just a very strong ally to the south. It's not something we've really put a lot of stock in. But that's actually one thing I would like seeing is I would like to see that our Canadian politicians start building up our military, even just for defense, not even for going and getting involved in the rest of the country, but just to build up our military so we have it if ever it was necessary.
But see, in terms of world opinion, as far as the Canadian and Australian military goes, both have small militaries, right? Australia has something like 56,000 troops. It's a tiny number. So Canada and Australia are sometimes, this is what I have seen. Like I don't mean any offense by this, but it is sometimes seen in some parts of the world as sort of henchmen to the US. Like they'll go wherever the US goes. So I don't know if that is good for the Canadian and Australian societies and their political direction. I don't know if it is, because if you are a country looking for your own identity, I don't know if it is good to be seen or to even like partly perceived as a sort of a hanger-on to a bigger country, right?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying on that, and it depends. It can be good, it can be bad, but at the same time, it's one thing that I find that a lot of people in my country do is they get into a false sense of security, and that the idea that the world really likes Canada, so we don't have to worry too much. But again, a lot of it has to do with our strong neighbors to the south, because one thing that I don't think a lot of Canadians are aware of is that during the Cold War, Canada was marked by Russia to be nuked. But one reason they were worried about making any move against Canada was because America was so close.
Exactly. So see, it is like troubling to hear, like, if you're not focusing on your defense, because you should build up your military, even if your country has maybe 36 million people, but at least 2% of your population should be military, right? That's the ratio, like 2% of the country's population. We are like in our country, we are constitutionally capped at, I think, 1.4 million. Like, we can't have an army larger than that. So, like, because like 2% of a billion people is a lot, right?
Yeah,
We'll end up having an army, the armed forces, like the size of a small country. So like, no, but the fact is that defense, see, just because local defense may not be an issue for you because of your geographic position, doesn't mean that it might not be a problem in the future. In the future, you don't know. You might not be such good friends with the US anymore at any given point of time. The US might invade you. I'm just joking. But the fact is, that yeah, geographical threats aren't really there in the Great White North, right? Like, because you just have the Arctic Circle next to you, Greenland and all that, and Europe. You're close to Europe, so there isn't much geographically happening. So that may be one reason why you don't need such a large military. But then that also means that you don't need to sort of intervene in military actions across the world either, like just to help America out.
No, true. And there have been times where we haven't, like the Iraq War, America went to war, and then but Canada refused to go. And
yeah, wasn't it part of the coalition of the willing?
What's that?
Wasn't it part of the coalition of the willing, as George Bush put it?
No, not at all. Canada was refusing to join. It depended, though, because I think our Prime Minister Harper, if I remember correctly, Prime Minister Harper, before he became our Prime Minister, when the Iraq War started, I believe he did want to get involved with America. I'm pretty sure he wanted to send the troops into Iraq with America. And it was the Liberal Prime Minister at the time, Paul Martin? Yeah, I think it was Paul Martin at the time who was refusing to do so. And I guess in the hindsight being what it is, like hindsight being 2020, we made the right call because the Iraq War turned out to be a disaster. We didn't find the weapons of mass destruction we were looking for, and who knows how many casualties there would have been on our side if we had gotten involved. But it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. You know, there's times, for instance, I know the one thing right now is America's becoming much more isolationist. You know, I'm underneath Trump. They're not very happy with some of the ways that they get treated by some of their allies, because a lot of their allies will crap on Trump in America, but then they'll go running to him whenever they need a hand. And this doesn't have to be militarily. This can also be economically, since America has such a strong economy. But because of that, America's getting a little sick and tired of it. And it sounds like they're getting ready to pull out. In fact, another stream that I go on sometimes is the Red Eye stream, which is that guy Mad Dodge I was telling you about. It's his stream, and there's a guy on there called MC, and MC used to be part of the NSA, and he was actually saying last time I was on that he believes that NATO is dying, that NATO is on its last legs because America is getting a little tired of it, and then now it's going to get it's most likely that if they pull out, that NATO won't survive. And then all these countries that have relied on each other's defense are suddenly going to find themselves isolated in the world. And that could mean Canada too, which is another reason I'd like to see our military built up.
See, NATO was sort of a safety measure against the Russian expansion at that time, right? So, whatever.
Just Bold. He's like, Bold put in the chat, I just told a French Canadian to suck the biggest in the world for being a communist.
I love it.
He's not exactly wrong, though, because Quebec is a very socialist country. It is very socialist. And actually, one thing about it I've always said is that Quebec owes its standard of living to our other province, Alberta, because Alberta is Alberta has all our oil, and they are also one of our most profitable provinces. But we also have the equalization payments, which says that the province that have wealth are supposed to give to the have-not provinces. And who takes the most out of that? Quebec. They have taken 50% of all equalization payments. It amounts to over $200 billion since the equalization payments began. And I think the equalization payments, I may be off, but I think those only started when our Charter of Rights and Values came into play, which is, we're talking 1982, I believe. So in that entire time, Quebec has taken so much of the money. Yet at the same time, Quebec likes to shit on the rest of the country, and they like to be seen as very unique. They want to be called a nation within a nation. So, I think I was always saying, it's like, if somehow we managed to end the equalization payments, Quebec would be screwed. That's also be the problem. If they tried separating, they'd be screwed because they don't have the economy to uphold their standard of living. They would quickly turn into a third world country.
Oh God! See, that's the problem when you have a political spectrum of just liberal and liberal separatists. That's what happens. So yeah, there was no right wing in Quebec for a long time, right?
I'm sorry?
There was no right wing in Quebec for a long time, right?
No, not at all. Quebec was actually seen for a long time as a liberal stronghold, and that's only recently started changing, where a lot of people in Quebec have been getting disillusioned with both the NDP and the Liberals. And I can't remember what this party is. That's I think it only got started up a few years ago, but it is a center-right party, and it is gaining a lot of momentum in Quebec. So the danger that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are facing right now is they're losing. They're most likely going to lose Ontario next month, which is Kathleen Wynne is one of Trudeau's strongest allies, and it's we've been liberal for the last 15 years, and now they're off to lose Quebec. If they lose those two countries, Liberals are done. They have nothing left.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Another update: one lynched to death in Bengal.
One lynched, two dead.
No, one lynched to death. Lynched.
Oh,
he got lynched.
Jesus, man.
What is happening?
Stay inside today, man.
No, this is happening in the rural areas, so I'm like pretty safe. But I live very close to a majority Muslim area. There's a Muslim ghetto very close there.
All right, well, you be safe over there, man, because I don't want to hear that something happened to you.
See, that now it's like democracy held to ransom in Bengal, clashes between TMC and BJP workers, student murdered in Bengal. Holy shit, what's happening? Murder, stabbing, arson in Bengal. Oh, dude. Holy shit, I didn't. See, I'm seeing like the chief minister shooting herself in the foot with this, but like, this is terrible.
But then again, it may have exactly the sort of outcome that you're looking for. It's just everybody's going to see this violence and say, screw that, screw the Congress party. We're going to go vote for Modi. Yeah, that's
exactly what Modi wants. Modi wants to put her in a situation where she can't play the victim anymore. Because she has come up as a social activist, as saying, oh, I'm from a very poor family, this, that, I used to live in a ghetto, in a slum, and this and that. So she's come up like that. So Modi wants to completely discredit her in a way where she can't use that platform anymore. And that is exactly what is happening. That is exactly what is happening.
Man, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and figure out that there's just been like, there's just like a nuke went off somewhere in India or something like that.
No, but this is like in a democracy, this is unacceptable. This should be unacceptable. But maybe there's no other better way than this.
But there's that double standard again, because when it's right wing committing the violence, it's completely unacceptable. But when it's a left wing, it is like sort of like that whole punch a Nazi narrative that's going around. It's absolutely okay to punch a Nazi. We need to fight back against them. But if ever somebody was to come out and say punch a communist, you can guarantee that would make international headlines and how terrible the right is and how they're so violent. When in
It's
fact,
just like the media did not want to, like the liberal media didn't want to touch Antifa. They wouldn't speak about Antifa, even when they were doing all that violence.
in fact, I think when if we're going back to Charlottesville, I think they actually, for most of the time, they were trying to avoid using the word Antifa, and they were just trying to make it seem like these are individual protests that are fighting back against these Nazis that are there. And the other thing that I also noticed was that I actually watched when Charlottesville went down. I watched the live streams that were going on because I was very interested in it. And but then when all the pictures were coming out, they were showing people in Klans hoods. They were showing people carrying Nazi flags. But when I was watching this live stream, I didn't see any of that. And at least I don't know if it's true, but some people were saying that this was just literally a couple people that were doing that, and then they just got plastered everywhere.
Yeah, they were like more. They were like 50 or 60 reporters interviewing one guy for being a racist. There were more reporters than there were racists. So, unlike the 20s and the 30s, where 50,000 Klansmen walked down the Central Avenue in New York and in a march to the Democratic Convention, where they attended the Democratic Convention, the DNC. So, racism in America, at least, is dead. In fact, from most of the Indian people who go to America and come back and tell stories, it is the black people, the African Americans, who are the most racist in America. Yeah, that's what people I know keep saying. Like Priyanka Chopra, that actress who works in Hollywood right now, who's one of the top the film industry, Hindi film industry actresses. She had in one interview also said that black people were the most racist when she used to live in America. So
no way, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so it's been at least towards Indians, it's been known for a very long time that blacks are way more racist than whites are. I don't think, because we get along very well with the whites because we are productive people in society. So like if we are productive, everybody gets along. So if we are creating employment, if we are creating jobs, if we are creating if we are contributing to the economy and society, then obviously people will be okay with us. We are a model minority. So, but blacks on the other hand, they're highly racist and very combative. They don't like Indians. Blacks don't like Indians for some reason.
Interesting. Well, I will agree with you when you talked about Indian people being productive, because I used to work for a coffee shop up here, and I worked there for like 5 years. And I swear to God, man, every Indian that we had worked their freaking ass off. In fact, I had this one guy I used to it was a buddy of mine called Callian. Holy crap, man. I think that was literally the hardest worker I ever seen. Didn't matter what he was going on in his life. He went in and put in 150% every single day. And so I will definitely agree with you on that one. And the other thing is too, is like, obviously you can't destroy racism or sexism completely in a culture. There's always going to be individuals that hold this, but this is the problem I have when people say there's systemic racism in society. And a lot of these societies is because you have to prove that there is a system in place that is putting one group down while lifting another one up. But most of the time, if you ask people and say, well, what is this system? Point me towards a law or a government regulation or something that is trying to put one group down and raise another one up. And almost nobody can ever do it. Actually, I've never had anybody I've asked that who's been able to give me an answer on that. But yet the idea of systemic racism continues on.
The board seems to be talking about, what is he talking about? James Earl Jones cast as Tulsa Doom in Conan the Barbarian. I believe that race relations have come a long way. And then, I don't know, sad emoji face. What's he talking about? What's he talking about?
No, James Earl Jones. He was an actor. Actually, he was the voice for Darth Vader in the Star Wars series.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I can't say that I've seen Thulsa Doom though. I haven't seen Conan the Barbarian, so I'm not exactly sure.
I have seen Conan the Barbarian. He's the guy. He's the sorcerer who turns into that snake. That's the guy. It's Conan the Barbarian of fear.
Hey, now he's using my line against me. He says it's just my opinion. Is that just your stupid opinion,
Yes.
Bold? Stealing my line.
You bold.
Well,
dude.
I know that I'll be
Uh,
when I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to what's going on in India because I also want to hear about these results and see what ends up happening. Even though I'm expecting Modi to win in there and JB.
no, no, no. He might not win in the rural election polls in Bengal. He might not win. BJP might not win. But the PR disaster it is creating is very valuable moving into the general elections next year and future elections in Bengal. Like Bengal is due for election in 2021. So by that time, Modi will have destroyed Mamata. He would have destroyed the West Bengal chief minister by then politically. And as far as Karnataka is concerned, I don't think. See, even if there is a hung assembly, Modi will form the government. Like BJP will form the government over there because they have the money power. They have all the government machinery behind them to sort of buy all the other parties over there to form an alliance. And I use the term buy because that's exactly what they're doing. They're basically buying them off.
And one very important thing in the parliamentary system is to have the confidence of the House. And it doesn't sound like any of these other politicians or any of these parties would, but Modi seems to have that confidence of the House. He seems to have had it for a few years now, and it looks like his support is just going to continue. So, yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. In 2021, Modi will definitely be reelected for sure.
See, Modi is so confident of winning the 2019 general election that he doesn't even talk of 2019 anymore. He's talking about things that he's going to do in 2022, 2023, 2024. He's talking about that what he wants to do then. He's not talking about the 2019 general elections because he knows he's going to win. And this time we are expecting that that there might be that he might get 2/3 majority. Might be.
A 2/3 majority?
Yeah, in the general election, because 2/3 majority means that he can then make constitutional changes.
I was going to say I think that's a super majority at that point.
Yeah, that's see, because he has in our lower house this 2/3 majority is 362 or 363. Yeah, 362. It is 362 is the 2/3 majority mark. The current ruling coalition has 337 seats.
That's the
so next time.
That was who had that many seats?
337 seats. The BJP with its coalition partners has 337 seats in parliament right now. So 337 is just a stone's throw away from 362.
Damn, man, this is going to be interesting in the future.
Yes. So that is why that's why US, Canada, UK, all these countries right now are very interested in having good economic relationships with India and other cultural and nation-to-nation relationships with India, because they know that this is a stable government, and so stable, in fact, they know that this government is going to remain for many years to come. And in fact, the party president Amit Shah, he was at one point of time talking about 4 decades of BJP, just a year back or so. 4 decades. He's saying that we are not interested in the 2019 elections. We are interested in 4 decades of BJP. So a part of that strategy is to win all the states. Now, if you have 21 of the 28 states currently, that 4 decades of BJP is it's not a fool's fantasy anymore. It's just within grasping distance.
And all he has to do during his time off is he just has to focus on these individual ridings that he doesn't have yet, and he will just slowly siphon them off into his support. And then, yeah, absolutely, the Congress Party, the Communist Party, they're going to have nothing left. They're going to be completely destroyed.
Nothing left. They're going to have nothing left. Like the way they have just gone about taking state after state after state after state in the last 2 years, just the last 2 years, is mind-boggling. Means if we don't win the election, we will find a way to break the opposition coalition and make the government. That's the mindset these people have. They are like a 24/7 election machine there. And now Modi has in India the democratic process is very staggered. Different states have elections in different years, so the election process is continuously going on. Like every few months there is an election, a state election or this election or a municipal election, some election somewhere. So the fact is, what Modi has now started saying is one India, one poll. One India, one poll means simultaneously we'll have the upper house, lower house, state, assembly and rural elections simultaneously. And if that happens, the opposition hegemony will completely break. Means they will have no political fodder coming in, because there will be only one election every 5 years. So let's see. By the end of this year, we'll know more about, like, by October we'll know more about what the status is on this. When are they going to implement that? Because they're holding off till October for that announcement. The other and the other, like, great fight which is going on is the judiciary. That is one thing which I want to talk to you about.
It was you want to talk about which thing?
The judiciary, what's going on in the judiciary. But anyway, they're just plastering this violence all over TV. My God.
Man. I'm going to have to study Modi, man, for his process, because he's done so much, and he's done so much to destroy the left that we could use that over here. That I'm going to have to go and actually study Modi's method and everything that he's done in his time in office.
Because he was chief minister for, I think, 16 years or 17 years before he became prime minister. Okay, he was chief minister before that for 16, 17 years. And so that means he has the experience to work at the highest and to work and perform at the highest level for more than 2 decades. So the kind of experience that he brings into the political infrastructure, like today, the political machinery, that means there is no sort of this thing. There is no comparison. The opposition can't compete with him. There is no politician in India today who works at the level that he does, who operates at the level he does, in terms of political sort of acumen, in terms of like his vision. Also, there is no politician today or was there in history in India. So he is one of the, you can say he's one of those, like, genius type individuals who comes in once every few decades. That kind of individual. He's like that kind of individual, as far as at least politics is concerned. Because there is something to be learned from the way he operates. Because his election strategies are masterpieces on their own. Well, understood in the cultural context, masterpieces, individually crafted and, like, so effective.
Well, we're going to have to pay a lot of attention to him and take the lessons that he's brought to his political game over here, because he's doing a great job over there. So I'm thinking, Arjun, if in a couple days we were to 2 or 3 days, we would start streaming again once we have more of the election results, and we can talk a little bit more on that. And what? Sorry, I know you said it twice now, but what was that thing you said you wanted to talk about?
The judiciary. The judiciary is a very interesting story here, because like, there have been, like, reports coming out of the US and Canada that the judiciary is now leading left, right? That left-wingers are, like, getting into the judiciary. Like, they're giving judgments in favor of the left policies and all that. Like, there was a lot of attrition with Trump and all with the judiciary. The judiciary in India is a very interesting story, because how Modi has sort of brought the judiciary to heel, and at the same time maintained a sort of separation of powers. Right? He has brought, because what happens in India is, which happens only in India and nowhere else in the world, judges elect other judges.
Judges elect other judges.
Yeah, there is a collegium system in India which is highly opaque, and it is no sort of inner workings. Nobody in the public is privy to their inner workings. Judges, being public servants, have a collegium which is opaque to the public. So they started getting into a turf war with Modi, saying that judges will continue to select and elect other judges. Judges will appoint other judges. The Chief Justice and the 4 other most senior judges will appoint any judges coming up from anywhere, whether to the Supreme Court, local court, district court, anywhere. And we will make administrative policies related to this. So judges started getting into administration and executive branch, sort of executive powers, and they started usurping powers from other. So what Modi did was he came up with this idea called the National Judicial Appointments Commission, a 9-member panel which will comprise of judges, politicians, and eminent persons of society. And he got into a turf war, and the judges started getting into a turf war with Modi. What they started doing was they started giving decisions against the government, where obviously the decision should have gone in the government's favor. The judges started giving sort of controversial and sort of anti-government judgments, and they started criticizing the government openly and all that sort of, which was unheard of before Modi came. So what Modi started doing was he just stopped the appointment of judges. Any recommendation, see, the only way the government has any power to stop the appointment of a judge is by today, as it stands today, is by citing national security concerns. Right? Anything else, they don't have any say over. Any say over the character of the judge to be elevated, or they have no power. They should not be interfering in that. That is the position of the courts. So Modi, what he started doing was he instructed the law commission to reject any recommendation coming in based on national security grounds. So at one point of time, there were 40,000 appointments hanging because what started happening initially, the government said that we are not appointing. They started sending back recommendations to the collegium saying no, on national security grounds we reject. But the collegium would again say no, you appoint these people. You have no authority to override our recommendation. So what the law ministry started doing was it started saying no, we have not received the files of the recommendation. For months on end, they would say that we have not received the files, or the files are still in the mail, that kind of thing. So the thing is that Bold is going off, huh?
A little bit, yeah.
He's on fire today.
He's a master troller, man.
He's the king of trolls. The king, raise the king. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, that kind of one troll to rule them all. So anyway, so what the government started doing was they started making fun of the judiciary. Like they started making fun of the judiciary in this way, saying that we have not received the files or the recommendations. It's still in the mail. Oh no, we have lost the files. They started making these ridiculous statements. And it started pissing off the judiciary more and more. And it came to a point where there was 40,000 vacancies across various courts in India, across all courts, local, district, magistrates, Supreme Court, high courts, sessions courts. 40,000 judges short there. And the judges had to start putting in so much overtime that they had to stop taking vacations.
Wow, that's a good way to get somebody to do what you want, is take away their vacation time.
No, the government didn't do anything. They just stopped accepting the recommendations. And the government signature is required to sort of appoint a judge. You cannot appoint a judge without government signature. So they couldn't appoint new judges. And the only recommendations they would allow was when they saw that the judges were either neutral or had pro-BJP leanings. In those cases, they said, okay, fine, push these recommendations through. And when they were short of 40,000 judges, in that year they appointed something like 120 judges or something. Right? When they had needed to appoint 40,000 judges.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a tiny minority.
So there was this one function where Modi was speaking, and the Chief Justice of that time, T.S. Thakur, he was attending that function. So Modi spoke, and after Modi got off the stage, T.S. Thakur basically crawled up. He just somehow managed to get up on stage. He just on all fours and get to the podium. And on the podium, he literally started crying. He had tears and all that. And he started sobbing, and he's saying that this is an unprecedented attack on the judiciary, this, that, we need to get along more, this, that, there is such a there's a shortage of judges. There's a crisis in the judiciary going on right now. The Prime Minister, I appeal to you to do something about this. Please stop this standoff. This, that. We need more judges. Modi is just listening. He's nodding. And then he asked Modi, Prime Minister, what are you going to do about this? Modi just nods and he says, this is a very big problem. We need to look into this. And then for months, no answer. Okay. And this crisis starts here. So this is the background to the crisis. Now, let's fast forward a few months. What happened was, there was this Calcutta High Court judge called Justice Karnan. Karnan, what ended up happening was, Karnan was told by the sitting constitutional bench in the Supreme Court, there he was sent an order saying that stop criticizing the Supreme Court. Karnan used to criticize the Supreme Court for various judgments and all that. Karnan said, he was sent a letter by the Chief Justice and the constitutional bench saying, stop criticizing the Supreme Court. Karnan went off on the Supreme Court justices and the Chief Justice of India, calling them anti-poor, anti-Dalit, they are discriminatory, they are hounding a boy from a poor family. He just went off, right? He was a known troublemaker also. So and he used to send letters and all to the every day abusing the Chief Justice and everybody. He was the Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court. Okay, sending abusive letters to the Chief Justice of India. Imagine such a situation. He's from Tamil Nadu. He's from Chennai. He's from the south of India, who sits in the Calcutta High Court because he was thrown out of the Madras High Court for being too confrontational and for other such reasons. He was transferred to the Calcutta High Court, from where he attacked the Chief Justice and the Constitutional Bench, the senior judges, and the Collegium also. He was attacking the Collegium also, saying that the Collegium is an archaic system, it has no place in a democracy, this, that. So, every day, the Chief Justice used to call the Prime Minister and say, please impeach this guy. In India, no judge has ever been impeached till date. Okay, please impeach this guy. Modi said, we will look into it, and we would keep the phone down. And then not look into it at all for months and months and no news. And in the meantime, Karnan is abusing the judges every day, abusing the Supreme Court justices every day. Now it got to a point where the Supreme Court Chief Justice, he issued that he had to appear before the Supreme Court, right? That Chief Justice, he had to appear in front of the Supreme Court. What Justice Karnan did was, because he's a judge, he struck down that order by the Supreme Court, and he sent an order to the Supreme Court saying that all these 5 judges have to appear before me in the Calcutta High Court. Imagine this, okay? He's striking down an order by the Chief Justice of India and sending a reverse order saying, you will appear in front of me. Okay, so which is a huge embarrassment. Now what happens is, again Chief Justice approaches the Prime Minister and says, impeach this guy. How can we impeach? How can we impeach a judge? We have no tradition of impeaching judges. We believe in our judiciary. This kind of jargon is getting from the Prime Minister. Because see, the Prime Minister, to impeach a judge, you have to you need majority in both houses. Or you can call a joint sitting of the Parliament and then you can impeach the judge. And you need 2/3 of the vote to impeach a judge. There's a whole headache to that, but it can be done. So this is happening, and every day this guy. So finally, what happened was that the Chief Justice of that time issued an arrest order on this guy, saying that this guy needs to be arrested. They sealed his office. They sealed his office. They sealed the court that he used to sit in, and they said, you are no longer a judge. You have been dismissed. You are suspended. What this guy does is, he goes to his house, he opens a court over there. He takes one room in his house and opens a court over there, and he sits there and starts giving orders, saying that the Chief Justice has no authority to seal my office and this and that. And they are unable to arrest him, because to arrest a judge, you need the central police to arrest the judge. Local police cannot arrest a judge. So, and the government is in control of the central police, and government is not sending any central police. So this mess is continuing for months on end. So finally, what happens is when they pass a sort of a temporary order to give powers to empower the West Bengal police to arrest this judge. This judge, what did he do? He just ran away. He ran away to Chennai. He ran away to some village in Tamil Nadu, and he just disappeared for months. For like 6 months, he just disappeared. No one could find him. And now Central Police is not going to look for him. So the Chief Justice of India ordered the West Bengal Police to go and retrieve him. And all this is possible because the center is supporting the Justice Karnar. This rebel judge was being supported by the center to defame the judiciary. Because as I said, Modi is a master of defaming. So through this whole thing, Modi, because they did not agree to the National Judicial Appointments Commission, Modi started defaming the judiciary, saying that you people are not responsible as judges. and because of your collegium system, such a judge has come out. Why, if there was no collegium system, such judges would not make it to the highest office. So what happened? So what happened was, the West Bengal police is in the east of the country, like towards the northern part of the country. They speak a totally different language. They look completely different. They have a different culture than to the people of the south, in Tamil Nadu. West Bengal police is going to Tamil Nadu, which is maybe 2,000 kilometers south of West Bengal, to south of Kolkata, and they are going from rural village to rural village, speaking to people who don't understand what they're saying to them, and showing a photo. The story that goes is they were showing a photograph, going from village to village, showing a photograph of the judge, saying, "Is he living here? Is he living here?" And these guys would just say, "Illa, get out." It means no, get out. That kind of answer. So they went to hundreds of villages looking for this guy. Finally, one village, they found this guy sitting on some bench or something, wearing all those like traditional villager garb and everything, just sitting there. And they finally got him back to Kolkata. And then they couldn't put him in jail. The problem was they couldn't put him in jail. Why? Because he pretended to be ill. So then for 6 months, he had to be sent to jail in the prison hospital. He spent his entire jail sentence in the prison hospital. Now judiciary is supposed to be one of the pillars of democracy, which the government cannot touch politically. You cannot politicize the judiciary, right? But look, Modi found a way to bring the judiciary to its knees through a character who is as colorful as this rebel judge. And you won't believe this guy. He opened a court in his house, and every day he was issuing arrest warrants on the Chief Justice of India. It became a complete circus. It became a circus. Now, coming to the current Chief Justice. The current Chief Justice has become a Karnar. They have made the current Chief Justice into a Karnar. Why? Because they somehow, when they brought up the Ram Temple issue, the current Chief Justice is liberal. Like left, but he's a liberal, so he leans left, like that. So he was initially against the government. He was anti-Modi, but then Modi brought him to heel by again stopping judicial appointments, by stopping judicial perks, all the judiciary, whatever perks and all they get. Modi, even there were talks about Modi sort of re-evaluating the pay commission, the payment, the salaries that judges get, and all that sort of thing. So then Chief Justice got the idea. So in the Ram Temple issue, what happened was, which is a very emotional issue, we should talk about that. It's a very important issue. Modi, because if Modi has promised to get the Ram Temple made by the end of this year, and if he does that, he will not lose another election for as long as he lives. Okay, it's that kind of issue. So he got the Chief Justice, current Chief Justice, to sort of dismiss all activists and other outside petitioners on that case, and to make it a case between solely between the parties, because the opposition was trying to politicize it by having their own people assist in the cases. So what happened was, one of the lawyers, who is also a senior leader of the Congress party, who's arguing against building of the Ram Temple, he says defer the judgment till after the 2019 election. Defer the judgment to the to after the 2019 general election. Why? Because if the Ram Temple is made, they will never get elected. Because 80% as a bloc will vote for BJP. That will completely consolidate the Hindu vote. So when the Chief Justice, because of his compulsions, because the judiciary is under so much pressure publicly and from the government, he caved to the government saying, okay, fine, we will have day-to-day hearings starting from 23rd May, and we will hear the whole case. And within a few months, we will give the judgment. What these guys did was, they started threatening the Chief Justice, saying, if you don't defer this judgment, we will impeach you. We will bring an impeachment motion against you. And what the government very smartly did was, they told the Chief Justice, don't worry, we are with you. Don't worry about it. You will not get impeached. No, don't worry about anything. You will. Nobody can do anything. We are with you. So what ended up happening was, they ended up making the Chief Justice another Karna. Now the tricky bit is in this whole thing is, now because the Chief Justice is firmly in the Prime Minister's camp, there are a couple of important cases that are coming up. One is the National Herald case, in which the main opposition leader and the president of the Congress party, who is their candidate for Prime Minister, his dad was Prime Minister, his grandmother was Prime Minister, his great-grandfather was the first Prime Minister of India. Okay, he comes from that family.
Long history of prime ministers there.
His mother, who is an Italian woman, almost became Prime Minister illegally. That's another interesting story. Okay, but in the last moment, it was revealed that Italy does not have a reciprocal law. A naturalized Indian citizen can never become the Prime Minister of Italy. So that was exposed at the last moment, and then she withdrew her candidature. Anyway, that's an interesting history there. But this guy, who has been made to look like a complete fool now, he's become like a, I don't know of an equivalent. He's a complete idiot. So this guy has been defamed no end. Okay, this guy wants to be Prime Minister in 2019. He is on his say so. This lawyer is threatening the Chief Justice. He says, we will now bring an impeachment motion. What does the government do? Government rejects that impeachment motion. And now it's in a state where this judge is now become anti-opposition. And that is important because this guy has a case against him, this Rahul Gandhi, he has a case against him saying that he took bribes worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he appropriated by using public money, he appropriated a media house worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and basically using money which is supposed to be used for, which are political donations, which are public money and tax exempt. That money he used to buy this media house at a throwaway rate, not at the market rate, at a throwaway rate. That is the case against him. It's the National Herald case. You might want to look it up. Now the thing is, the hearings for that case is coming up very soon. Okay, some further hearings are coming up. Now, who's going to hear that case? The Chief Justice or somebody the Chief Justice knows. What is going to happen in that case? Okay, recently when recently some judges, there was this one judge called Justice K.M. Joseph. K.M. Joseph was a judge who gave a decision against the BJP in a state election last year or last to last year. What happened was, in that decision, nine MLAs from the Congress party broke away and tried to join the BJP. And what happened was, that means the Congress government of that time came into minority, and the government would have been dissolved. They somehow got this judge to give a decision saying these 9 MLAs are disqualified, and the government is not in minority, and the judge did that. After that, now couple of days back, what happened was, this guy's name came up as a nomination for elevation to the Supreme Court from the High Court, elevation to the Supreme Court. The collegium sent this guy's recommendation to the law ministry. Law ministry rejected the application and sent the recommendation back and said, "Oh, we don't want this judge. We are not confident of this judge's character." So people started saying, "Oh no, he gave a decision against the BJP, so he can't do this. They're rejecting his name, and they are trying to put their own people in judiciary," which is true. But the fact is, it backfired. How? The guy who was the lawyer in the Ram Temple case, Kapil Sibal, he was the guy fighting this case. He filed a petition in the case, in the courts, saying that how did the Chief Justice allow how did the Chief Justice allow the rejection of this application, and two, the Chief Justice is in cahoots with the government, and that's how he got the impeachment motion in the House to be rejected. So this petition he filed in the Supreme Court. Now, who's going to hear this case? The person who because the Chief Justice is the master of roster. He appoints judges to hear the cases. The Chief Justice appointed some people. Now this guy lands up in court and sees that, and asks that, who appointed you? He asked the judge that, who put you in charge of this case? The judge wouldn't answer the condition. He asked them, why do you want to know? Well, let us hear the case and let us decide on the merits of the case. No, this guy was adamant, saying, who is the guy who appointed you in charge of this judge? Did the Chief Justice appoint you? The judges won't answer the question. So then he says, okay, if you won't tell me, then please show me the appointment letter. Who has given you the charge of this case? There this guy, the judges further refuse. Then he says, let me withdraw this case. This is an indication as to what is going to happen, A, in the Ram Temple case, B, in the National Herald case, and C, in any future cases the Congress party will ever put in front of the Supreme Court. And for that matter, Mamata Banerjee was in this camp of impeaching the Chief Justice at first. Okay, so she has made an enemy of the Supreme Court. And that is why the Supreme Court, few days back, rejected her application to declare the candidates who had already won uncontested, whom she had gotten into those chairs through intimidation, to allow them to continue as elected, right? To consider them to be elected only. But the Supreme Court has rejected her application, where she had intimidated the Calcutta High Court into agreeing with her. The Supreme Court, the BJP appealed to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court rejected. So now, any case the opposition parties bring to the Supreme Court are going to get rejected. That is the decision is not going to go in their favor. That is the situation that has been created. Modi, in a very smart way, has brought the judiciary to heel. Now you watch, within a year or so, it might even come to a point where the collegium system might end completely. Because what happened was, 4 judges of the collegium systems rebelled against the Supreme Court, saying, oh, there is a lot of corruption being done by the Chief Justice. He's in cahoots with the government, this, that, which is unprecedented. that 4 senior-most judges of the Supreme Court after the Chief Justice are rebelling like that. And one of them is touted to be the next Chief Justice. What Modi did was he didn't say a word. What ended up happening was one of the opposition party members from the Communist Party of India went to a secret meeting with one of these judges. The media picked up on that and just plastered it all over the news, and these 4 judges got discredited as opposition stooges and corrupt. And that just bolstered Modi's effort for the anti-collegian move. So formerly, an institution which was completely untouchable as far as politics was concerned was one of the only institutions that could not be brought to heel by politicians, has been brought to heel by Modi.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, Modi turned what was supposed to be the judiciary, which was a strong opposition to him, he managed to manipulate it and flip it to turn it against his enemies. So what was once their allies suddenly became their biggest opposition then. Yes. Oh my God, that's brilliant. That's freaking brilliant.
And he does this everywhere he goes. Every state he goes, he does this. What he did was he fractured the Muslim vote in this way. What he did was he told the Shias that we like you, you are good Muslims. The government sent out this message saying we like good Muslims. Okay, and then he told the Shias, which are the minority Muslim community, saying we like you, you are good Muslims. And immediately the Shias abandoned the Sunnis and they became with the government. Okay, then he got this divorce law into effect, where he gave marriage security to Muslim women, and he's currently working on against the polygamy aspect of it also. And immediately 50% of the Muslim populations became with the BJP. 50%, which is the Muslim women, out of 200 million voters, 100 million voters suddenly became with the BJP. Okay, who are left? Sunni men are the only ones who are left. Now Sunni men also have to get along with their wives now, because they don't want to break apart their families. Now legally they can't just divorce their wives just over email or WhatsApp. They can't do that. Right. So now what Modi has very effectively done is in a multi-layered fashion, he has just fractured the Muslim community politically. And the only people who are left shouting are the rabid Maulvis and the mullahs who are sort of who are uneducated, illiterate, have only read the Quran in their life, only read the Urdu paper. Only those guys are left shouting. And now the Muslims have started complaining that every time there is a news panel or a news discussion done about Muslims, the news channels only get these guys with the cap and the beard. Those guys are not the representative of the Muslim community. That is the complaint of the Muslims nowadays, that we are being defamed by these guys. And Modi has just, in a brilliant way, in the last 2-3 years, just demolished this Muslim vote bank. He's just demolished, and it has become so bad for the opposition parties that they are now forced to go back and try to woo Hindu voters, which is failing miserably, because for the last 7 decades they have been criticizing and bullshitting the Hindus, saying that you guys are nothing. You people are oppressors. Your people are this. You're that. And these guys are just saying, oh, the opposition is just trying to divide Hindu society. And the moment they say that, immediately everybody in the Hindu community becomes alert and they become against those guys. Hindutva, nationalism, development. And with these 3 points, Modi is now he's gaining more and more momentum leading into the next year's polls, the general election.
Wow. That's impressive, man. Like, that is... Holy crap, that's just a maze right there. He just went through a whole maze of strategies in order to come out on the other side. That's really impressive. This is a strategy I've really got to study, man, because this is very impressive to see. I mean, I've never heard so single-handedly of one person tearing down their opposition so horribly.
See, I'll give you another example. What Modi did recently was the issue with Nepal. Now, Nepal has elected a Maoist government, right? They have elected the revolutionary communists into government. after the monarchy went out. Now, these Maoists are more inclined more inclined to ignore their historical relations with India, and they lean towards China. Modi, in a very effective manner, what he has done is he isolated Nepal. What he did, he told Nepal, you are ignoring the indigenous Indian people of Nepal who live in Nepal, and you are not giving them voting rights, you are not giving them constitutional rights, you are violating their human rights, you are not giving them any status in your country, and they have been living in your country for centuries. You should not do this. We don't like the direction you're taking. Initially, the communist government of Nepal said, no, we are not interested in all this. You keep your nose out of our business. What India did was, so they just said, Modi says, then there will be consequences for that. So we don't care, we have China. And China immediately jumped at that and said, okay, no, don't worry, we have got your back. So India said, think about it very carefully. Most of your supplies and trade comes from India. 80% of your trade and supplies come from India. Think about it. No, China, and China said, no, we will compensate. We will send you everything that you need, all your basic amenities. We will. So India said, okay. After that earthquake hit the last year, or last year, or was it last year?
I think it was last year.
After that earthquake hit, India used the excuse. The Indian government used the excuse that during this great tragedy, human trafficking is on the rise. We are shutting the borders, and they sealed the borders. Nothing in or out. No supply trucks, no nothing. But they sent aid workers. They sent aid workers and sealed the borders. Okay. So no supplies were going in. And China said, we will give you supplies. So they ran to China. And what ended up happening was, because China is across the mountain, they could send only 1/3 of the supply they had promised. And they said, we can't supply anymore. We have logistical issues. So for many months, the blockade continued. And Nepal finally relented, and they were on their knees basically. And the Nepalese Prime Minister immediately came to India, said sorry to Prime Minister Modi. And see, this is the tactic. Anybody who abuses Modi and then feels the heat of it, they just go and say sorry to him. Just go and say sorry. Whether it be Chief Ministers, Chief Prime Minister of Nepal, it doesn't matter. They just go and say sorry. And Modi says, okay, I'll do something about it. So wow. Modi said, then you have to give like voting status and all these to the indigenous Indian people. So they said, yes, we will do that. And they did it within 30 days. Within 30 days, they gave voting rights, everything that is told. And then what happened was, over the last few months, very slyly, and then they after that, they removed that, once that chief minister was there, they removed that chief minister. Not chief minister, prime minister. They removed that prime minister. The Communist Party of Nepal removed that prime minister, and they put a pro-China guy again. Pro-China guy made no headway with China. They made no headway with any other country. Tourism declined because India is sort of back. There was a diplomatic chill with India, and when they requested India to help them, India refused. So first, improve your behavior. So basically, that was the message that went out. Improve your behavior. Don't lean towards China. We are your historical friends. We are the big brother. You be with us. We have always protected you. We have given you everything. So, and the people of Nepal love us. The common people of India love the Nepalese. A lot of the Hindus, heritage and Hindu spiritual, deeply spiritual sites are in Nepal. Pashupatinath, which is a very holy site, is in Nepal. Then the birthplace of Lord Ram's wife, Sita, is in Nepal. The birthplace of the Buddha is in Nepal. So Nepal has a rich spiritual history. So the thing was, after this happened, when the Communist Party of Nepal saw that you can't bluff Modi, you can't arm twist Modi, they had to relent. They dismissed the pro-China prime minister, and they brought the old guy back again. Okay, who came to India about 2 weeks back and said sorry a bunch of times. He said India and Nepal are committed to renewing their ties and this, that, a whole bunch of jargon. And then what happened was Modi went to Nepal about 2-3 days back. Wait, 12th, when was today's 14th, right? Day before yesterday was 12th, was the polling. On 11th, Modi went to Nepal and he held a huge rally in Nepal where hundreds of thousands of people showed up. Right? Now, this is another characteristic of Modi and Indian politics in general. That, like in Canada, say a few thousand people show up to rallies, and that's called a big rally. Let's say if 20,000 people show up to a rally in Canada, that's a huge rally, right?
That'd be huge.
Yeah. Now, Modi talks to people in numbers nothing less than 4, 5, 600,000, 700,000, 800,000. That is the kind of rallies he holds, right? And in Nepal, 100,000 people or something like that showed up to his rally. There he's talking about the Hindu heritage, the Hindu way of life, and this and that. Now this is a two-sided attack. It's a double-edged sword. This rally that he had, this pro-Hindu rally he had in Nepal. One, he's trying to change the culture of Nepal, saying he's telling the Nepalese people that why have you elected these jokers, these Communist Party jokers? Okay, go back to your Hindu roots and elect a pro-Hindu party. That's the basic message he's sending out with this. And what ended up happening was in the Karnataka election, the Congress party and all the Karnataka politicians, all the Kannada politicians, they started complaining that Modi is holding a rally in Nepal to influence elections in Karnataka. He's doing he couldn't, just because of the model code of conduct, because of the restrictions placed by the election commissions. He could not hold a rally a day before the election. So what he did was he went to Nepal and he held a rally, which is exactly what he did. He held a rally for Nepalese people, aimed at both Nepalese people and Karnataka, and the Hindu vote in India. This is how he thinks. You can't do anything to such a man. You can't do anything to him.
Well, I gotta say, I am impressed by the strategies of your Prime Minister Modi. He has proven himself to be very confident, very sharp, and he knows his opposition well for the way that he can tear them down. So this is definitely, like, I'm loving this conversation. This is definitely something we're going to have to continue in the next few days. I'm thinking, like, if you're available, maybe midweek or so, we can meet back up and we can have another stream on this sort of thing.
Does Wednesday or Thursday work for you?
Yeah, either one. I'm right now I'm working a job that's on call, so as long as my boss doesn't call me for one of those days, that should be fine. And what we can do is next time, which works easier for you? Would it be night in your time? Would daytime work easier for you or nighttime?
No, either way. This time, like the stream we did today, this is also fine. We can do the stream in the night time, whichever is convenient for you, because you have a job, you've got a family, things to look after also.
Alrighty, we'll tell you what, I'll message you in the next day or two on Discord, and then we'll figure out a day, and then we'll get back together and we'll talk about this some more. Plus, I want to hear about the results in your election, so that'll be important.
Absolutely. And we'll have the full Bengal thing also. Right now, what the ticker is saying is that worst case of poll violence in history of Indian politics. That's the
all right.
Defamation at work.
We've got a stream, man. We have a stream. The most violence in most political violence in Indian history. Perfect. Yeah. Sounds good to me. So I'll be messaging you in the next day or two, and we'll set that up. All right.
Sure, buddy. Sure. Great talking to you, man. Great talking to you.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for joining me again. It's always good to have these conversations with you.
All right. Good night, buddy.
All right. Have a great day, man. See you later.